town to town, from London to Taiwan. I've been all around the globe trying to protect your soul. Yeah. Let's have a bit of fun till I downfall. My love, if you feel like I do right now, don't say you're on the run to the other side, my love. You say you wanna try, but you never do. Sugar, there's a reason why we lose. You say you wanna cry, but you never do. Sugar, there's a reason why we lose. I don't know what you want. Let's have a bit of fun till I downfall. My love, if you feel like I do right now, don't say you're on the run to the other side, my love. You say you wanna try, but you never do. Sugar, there's a reason why we lose. You say you wanna try, but you never do. Sugar, there's a reason why we lose. You say you wanna cry, but you never do. Sugar, there's a reason why we lose.
Ladies and gentlemen, and everybody in that wonderful technicolor rainbow in between, welcome to tonight's coverage of the Titan Esports Divinity League. I am What's Ready, and joining me back on the desk, freed from observing, it's Anti. How you doing today, Anti?
I am doing quite well. It's been a while since I've been back on the desk. I missed you, Brittany.
Missed you too.
Missed you from behind the scenes, I guess, because I was always there per se. But what is here now that also wasn't there earlier in the weeks is the playoff semifinals for Divinity League. We're finally here. We managed to get the first seed versus the fourth seed today. We are going to get TFF versus Doga once again. I mean, these teams are honestly probably going to be one of the most interesting matchups in the playoffs going forward, because TFF, right? Don't get me wrong, first seed, very, very strong team. TFF Aftershock have gone into this with a phenomenal record throughout the normal season and have been an absolute powerhouse, but they were handed a 2-0 loss at the hands of the Dorado gaming squad.
Yeah, this is going to be Dorado's chance to show that 2-0 wasn't just a fluke, and they have what it takes to show up here today. Now, unfortunately for Dorado, they do have a substitute coming into today. Islamic Samurai in the jungle could not be here. So Sunrai moving back into that jungle position that they started the season off in, and we're going to have Barolo down there in support, which might change people's predictions for the most part. But you know what? Not for me. I'm coming in with a prediction today of 3-1 for Dorado. I think this is a incredibly strong team, even with a substitute in. They have shown advancement throughout the season, and despite them coming in a little bit shaky off the back of the literal monkeys of their miracle run to third place, I still think they're one of the strongest teams in contention here, and I wouldn't be shocked if we end off today by seeing that we're going to have monkeys versus Dorado in the finals.
Honestly, I don't disagree with a lot of the points that you did make there, but I will say, right? So TFF Aftershock, incredibly strong team. We've seen them time and time again. We've seen how they can play so unbelievably well together as a team. And we've also seen them get a little bit, lax with things, right? Troll a little bit in some of those regular season games. And honestly, if you want to troll regular season after you've already clinched playoffs, is the place to do it. But most importantly, they did lose to Dorado, which I will say, that did happen. That's definitely something you cannot wipe off the map. But a team that does not lose, getting handed their first loss, is the most important thing for a team, right?
Absolutely.
If you get handed that loss early enough, it can be that wake-up call, that need to be like, you know what? We're trolling a little too much. We need to get our heads back in the game. It's playoffs. We need time to lock in. So I think that, the TFF Aftershock are going to be going into this specifically with the mindset of, hey, we lost to these guys before. We are just going to go straight on in and try to get that revenge.
Yeah, and speaking of going straight on in, we're ready to hop into the draft here for game number 1. We've got some exciting announcements coming down the pipeline later on this evening. It's a best of 5, so we're in here for the long haul. TFF Aftershock will be starting on the blue side, and off the bat, taking out Walk Warlocks, allowing respect already being shown.
Yeah, I mean, Alawi, one of those champions that you really don't want to have to deal with. If you don't have a tried and true counter pick for some of these pocket picks, honestly, Ban is a 100-0 matchup, right? I mean, you really can't get past that one. But in the meantime, Alawi going to be taken off the table. Jin and Jinx both taking off the table. Wow, that's a lot of AD carry bans. But on top of that, no Misfortune bans, particularly interesting thing here, because I will say Misfortune, very strong AD carry that we've seen on the patch. Leona, possibly the strongest, if not the strongest support on the patch, going to be taken off the table here, which makes a lot of sense. I would not be surprised to see, oh my god, never mind, even more AD carry picks taken off the table. But if we do see a Misfortune early, we could also see a Braum picked up immediately, so we'll have to see how things really change between these two teams.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if we do see that early. The Misfortune was an option, but they're opting for the Hwei blind first pick for IQ of a Coconut. Now, if you have been paying attention to the Divinity League at all, you know that there was a massive content write-up piece that came out earlier before the playoffs started today, which mentioned that I believe IQ of a Coconut was inarguably, one of the best mid laners in the league currently. So, I mean, blind locking your first pick in the first match of playoffs, that's one way to prove that you've got the guts to say you are the best.
Yeah, I mean, the gauntlet's thrown down, and sometimes, right, it's all about those ego picks, because if you can make those ego picks work, right, that's when you can really truly shine here. But the Braum gonna be taken up away from the Ashe. Honestly, great pick there. I would not hate to see a Misfortune pick up here, but yet we are going to get the Mordekaiser, which will, lock up champions like an Ornn or, some other tank champions available there. But Warlock is not really the type of player to just go straight for those tanks, as we've mentioned, right? This is a player that really warps the draft around them, has so many picks available. And I know the write-up was saying that Warlock's a player who the entire draft warps around them. What about Chrome Loan? Because that is 4 80 carry bans from the side of Dorado Gaming Lambda.
Yeesh. It could be 5 here. There's still a couple of strong AD carries up and available. Yeah, there's number 5.
It's 5. Oh my
Dorado
God.
Gaming paying respect to the bottom lane here of TFF. Overall on the draft, this is 8 out of the 10 possible bans towards the bottom lane. Leona and Nautilus being those support-focused ones. Wow, it's a lot of just bottom lane presence here for game number 1.
Yeah, I mean, either way, tons and tons of bot lane presence just going to continue to come on through here. And we're just going to be, waiting on that next pick. But Viego going to be coming on out here. So this is going to be a top lane Volibear. And now I will say the top lane Volibear versus Mordekaiser matchup is not something that we're too used to seeing. And Volibear does have so many different builds that he can go, so many different opportunities to go for. The Xayah going to be picked up here finally for Chrome Alone. And once again, Sejuani going to come on out. And I got to say, Sejuani, very, very strong pick to have at your disposal, especially with a team like this.
We're running Ashe Senna in the bottom lane here for Dorado as well.
Okay.
There's a lot of question marks for me in this draft already. The Xayah pick off cuff, I understand that a lot of the 80 carries are taken out, and we are running low on the pool here, but there are champions like Ezreal still up and available. Xayah is a champion that is very comp dependent. You do have the Volibear and the Viego who are going to be kind of just sprinting at you, and that's Xayah's favorite thing. Champions running towards her, she loves that. But then you also have Syndra, Ashe, Senna, who are all playing very far away. Granted, in the draft, they didn't see the Senna first, but at the same time, looking at Ashe, Syndra, Volibear, and saying, yeah, we can pick Xayah here, this is fine, is a little concerning, I think, for TFF, but on the other side, Dorado picking up this Senna, I'm a little confused by it at the same time.
Yeah, I don't really know how to feel about Senna Ashe. It's not something that I'm particularly used to seeing because I don't think these two go together particularly well. But, I mean, into a Braum, into the Xayah, it's going to be a little bit of a question as to whether or not we're actually going to get into the swing of things. But now that we are on the Rift, I gotta say, Brittany, how are you feeling about this Senna Ashe?
I'm excited. I'm looking at cleanse, heal, cleanse for both AD carries actually, and it's just that ignite versus heal. I do think with the advancement of AD carry, we'll call it tech in their summoner choice, people not going heal as often anymore. You want your cleanses, your barriers, ghost and heal aren't the dominant forces in the bottom lane anymore. It can open up more enchanter-like champions, and I think Senna definitely can abuse a low range bottom lane. But at the same time, if this Braum tags a Q on one of them, that's either a flash force or a cleanse force, almost guaranteed.
Yeah, I mean, I 100% agree with that one. I mean, the cleanses on 80 carriage is something that I have been a big proponent of for a long, long time. It's just so much nicer to have those defensive summoners rather than taking a heal. Just put it on your support. A lot of the time supports are already taking revitalize. You get a little bit of extra healing from that heal anyway, so it's like, why not? In the meantime, Fallen Warrior is just going to straight up go with the Guardian, just going to take that ignite. A little bit aggressive of a summoner spell on the Braum, but when you're into Senna Ashe, right, you're going to be dragging your jungler down here. You're going to try to make something happen. So the moment that these champions are hitting level 3, we are seeing Cocoa Puffs, pathing towards that bot side. This is when we're going to start seeing the real bloodbath come on in.
Yeah, and I'm not surprised to see Cocoa Puffs rotating towards the bottom side so early, or at least pathing towards it at the very least early on. You have Braum Xayah, which is a lane with very, very good crowd control setup and follow-up if Sejuani can get an engage. Whereas Sunrai, pathing away from this bottom lane, looking to try and influence either the top or the mid lane matchup. Now, mid lane I think is going to be a bit of a farm fest. These are both control mages. They're going to sit, they're going to farm their waves, they're going to push them in, make life difficult for one another. But top lane, with Walk Warlock and Coach Silent K, these are bruisers, these are brawlers. They are going to be fighting.
Oh, absolutely. And Volibear as a champion just has so much priority at level 1. There's barely any champions in the entire game that can beat out a Volibear at level 1 here. So The man's just going to continue to punch down this wave. Has that passive going to be able to continually push that wave in? Once wave 3 comes on in, should be able to crash a large wave here. But in the meantime, Coach, Silent K, and Walk Warlock are the two to watch over here. But never mind, watch mid lane.
Looking for Efron here in the mid lane, getting that passive stacked up. The flash is forced, but that stun is already locked up. One more auto from either of them is going to come through. IQ flashes forward, picks up first blood of the playoffs.
Oh, baby. Coconut already with first blood going to be able to do a lot with the first pick, Blind Hui. And it wasn't banned out. Instead, it was 580 carry bans. And the man says, you know what? Do not disrespect me. There is a reason why the write-up rated me so highly. There's a reason why you should be banning away from me. But in the meantime, you're going to have to deal with the repercussions of a Hui with a first blood on top of you. Top lane, on the other hand, could turn into a full-on dive here. But honestly, before level 6, I would be hard-pressed to see a full-on dive.
Around. They're going to trade shield for shield, so Coach Silent K won't get the heal out of that one, but Sunrise in the area, not going to look for any advancement on that dive, just going to be forced to get that recall off. So being on the map a little bit longer than Coco, but not getting much more, I think, is a big deal. I say on the map for a little bit longer. He's still up there, by the way. Both of them are just hanging out here on the opposite sides of the map, looking for any opportunities. Cocoa Puffs is going to finish out that full clear towards this bottom lane camp and even up the CS here between the junglers.
Yeah, and with all of that time spent up there, Cocoa Puffs is going to be able to keep even in farm and able to wrap around towards this bot lane.
Rolo has to lose that flash. Winter's Bite and the Glacial Assault coming through means that, yeah, it's a summoner force as I expected. So now with no flash, this Senna is a really, really obvious regank target. I'm interested to see how Cocoa Puffs paths after this to take advantage of that.
Yeah, I mean, the top jungle is still available. So I honestly think that Cocoa Puffs can just go for that standard clear, just clear top to bot, and then look for a regank there. But in the meantime, Dragon is up. The Void Grubs are going to be coming up sooner rather than later. So we might actually see a classic objective trade between these two teams here, as Sunrise still trying to make stuff happen across the map, but still not able to quite find the opportunities.
Yeah, maybe just keeping his eye out right now for Cocoa Puffs clearing down towards this dragon, looking for it. Knows they have priority in the mid lane right now with the recall coming out from IQ of Coconut, so able to kind of just play up a little bit, look for some extra vision, and maybe even start this dragon actually. As it looks like it's just going to be the mid-jungle duo. Yeah, they're going to start taking this Infernal Dragon, and the early Infernal is great for this Dorado squad.
I mean, extra damage going to feel good for pretty much any team, but extra damage onto a team where your biggest win condition in these fights is just popping the hell out of one person so you can start to get resets, always going to feel pretty dang good here. But in the meantime, Coconut just going to be able to spot out that dragon take, not going to be able to do anything in response here, but more importantly, TFF Aftershock as a team not able to do anything in response. An odd control ward position there, but you know, in the end, Walk Warlock going to be losing out a little bit of gold, and Efron losing out a little bit of playtime.
Despair. They want to find this kill. They're going to get those passive pops, but Efron is going to survive. And now IQ of Coconut, the one in trouble. Sunrise, not level 6 yet, so no Heartbreaker available, but Cocoa Puffs tanking up for your mid laner, doing an excellent job, and IQ of a Coconut pays it back in kind. TFF up 2-0.
Yeah, Coconut still has the ability to go for the QW. Not gonna land, though, Efron. Not going to die, but getting sent all the way back to base when you've got this big of a wave under tower's got to feel so bad. But in the meantime, top lane still going toe-to-toe. Death Realm is going to get popped here.
Yeah, Walk should be okay. Does have the W1 Coach Silent K, so there's not a lot of extra damage that can come through here. Everyone's going to be fine to just walk back, but it is also going to be the Void Grub started up with that successful mid lane play. So it is eventually the objective trade. It's just a little slower than we're used to.
It's the objective trade that you go for as, well, we win it eventually, rather than, oh, well, we're going to punish the actual objective trade here. And honestly, the proactivity is something that we're going to have to see from this team if you're going to take this series as a whole, is what I would say if they weren't already up 1,000 gold and 2 kills. So in the meantime, Fallen Warriors still willing and happy to walk on up. The question is, how far can you walk
Crystal
up?
Arrow is available. Fallen Warrior has to lose that flash now. Feathers fly for Chroma alone, but you're stuck in a 1v2, now a 1v3 as you're forced to flash away. Does have the cleanse. Fallen Warrior doesn't have the Unbreakable. The Heartbreaker doesn't come through, so no reset for Sunrise. But an excellent little 2v2 there for the Dorado bottom lane.
Yeah, going to be able to pick up that early kill there. Fallen Warrior just walking up a little bit too far, a little bit too much confidence there. But as you can see, so much of the gold lead for the side of TFF Aftershock is coming from that mid lane. Just a lot of that pressure going to be on this way. That was that first pick blue side, but right now just going to continue to slow the game down, not really looking to blow things wide open as the wave just dies under tower. No one going to be able to pick up that wave, pick up that experience. Top lane, on the other hand, still going to constantly go toe-to-toe here. And I gotta say, I don't know what build Walk Warlock is going to go for. There's still very much the possibility of 2 Volibear builds that are very, very popular, right? There is the Undying Zombie Volibear build where you just go tank with, Undying Despair. You no longer have Ingenious Hunter, but you still have so much health from that. Usually that is paired with the Grasp though. So now that we do see the press the attack, it's likely going to be Rod of Ages into Navori Flickerblade Volibear, which is an absolute monster on the side waves, but unless you have some kind of extra tanky item, like for example a Fimbulwinter, it's a little bit hard to join the team fights early on.
Yeah, I think if Walk Warlock can start to get ahead in isolation, which we're already seeing with a decent CS lead, it was a lot stronger earlier, but now Coach Silent K has done an excellent job of evening it back up. But yeah, with the Inspiration Rune secondary for that extra skill point, and I imagine the Jack of all trades, Walk is probably headed towards the Navori build overall. Just going to grab an extra plate up here as well. Then I think if Walk gets ahead, this build can be very, very good. If not, though, if you start to fall behind, if you get that Roa a few minutes too late and it's stacking so slowly, you can really start to fall off the cliff.
Yeah, the big thing about the build is once you do finish those Navori Flicker Blades, is you can honestly get away with being a little bit more behind here, but we're starting to see a fight in the bot lane already.
Yeah, Cocoa Puffs is going to be spotted on Vision, just going to help that wave get shoved all the way in as Riv and Barolo are going to respect the 2v3 prowess. Mountain Dragon spawning up in about 20 seconds here, and TFF does not want to give Dorado the 2 dragon stack, and I do think Mountain Dragon works excellently for their composition, so they are going to be looking for some extra vision here. They might spot out Sunrise as they travel through here.
Oh, hello.
No ward in that Tri-Brush. Sunrise, oh no, CC'd up. Glacial Fissure, everything burned. Flash out for Sunrise means that they will survive. But ooh, rough showing there for Sunrise.
Yeah, wrong place, wrong time, but wrong CC layering coming in from TFF Aftershock, and Sunrise is going to be able to get out with their lives there. In the meantime, Dragon gonna get taken fully on out. Coach Silent K also gonna join in. Just want to say hello to the rest of the team, try to make sure that there is no possibility of a one fight on the back half of that one. But Mordekaiser and Sejuani are just going to walk right back up towards that top lane as Walk Warlock gets a little bit of alone time with this tower. When you're sitting on components for a Rod of Ages, that early tower plating, that early gold means so much.
Yeah, this is going to be a lot of value for Walk, who's now able to walk down with some priority against Coach Silent K. But Cocoa Puffs is here. Has to be, I think, a little bit more respectful of the amount of damage that these two do. Has to flash out and use that Stormbreaker for the exit out of here. Like he's going to come down and poke Coach Silent K a little bit, but they don't have Walk for this fight. No TP available for this Volibear, so this health bar is permanent. One grub is going to go down, so that's guaranteed. Void might spawn, but not the Enchanted Crystal Arrow. Looking for engage. IQ Coconut is engaged on, but has to flash out, and the Fear Walk Warlock taking a lot of damage from Riv, forcing them out. Cocoa Puffs is forced to flash out as well. It looked so good for TFF at the start, but Draw just walk in and take the objective away from them. What a brute force.
Yeah, I mean, I cannot believe that Dorado managed to do that. Gonna be able to rotate the entire team over with all 5 members to deny the 6 stacks of Void Grubs. But the 4th Void Grub still does go over to the side of TFF Aftershock, so still gonna be able to get a little bit of pressure out of that one. In the meantime, Walk not going to be enjoying how top lane feels here, but Coach Silent K has to burn the flash, has to get on out there. But now that all of this action is over, you know, we're going to be seeing a little bit more trading back and forth.
Yeah, just a little back and forth here in the bottom lane. That Blood Song is complete for Barolo, and Chromalo doing a little excellent spacing there away from the Senna, which feels like that shouldn't be exactly how that works, but you know what? Sometimes the good players just get it done. The gold is just about dead even here, about 100 in favor of Dorado, as the plates are going to fall up in about 10 seconds here. You can see the disparities across the map, but otherwise, it's practically even across the board. Now there's Fly from Chrome Alone. They're looking for a punish onto Riv, but has enough movement speed to just walk away, and now Chrome Alone, under half HP, has to, I think, start respecting the amount of damage that this Ashe Senna can do.
Yeah, it definitely has to do so. But in the meantime, mid lane.
Into Efron. No Spiraling Despair available, but I don't think they're even going to need it. One more auto IQ of a Coconut just locks it down on a killing spree now on this way.
Yeah, and Hui getting so much damage off, so much gold in the early stages of this game. Definitely got to be feeling really good here. In the meantime, Coach Silent K once again just going to go toe-to-toe with Walk Warlock. The fully finished Rod of Ages is going to be a huge boon for the Volibear, but I will say, right, the Mordekaiser comes online so much faster than Volibear in terms of team fighting when it comes to this build, right? The Mordekaiser really only needs to finish up that Rylai's Crystal Scepter, and then all of a sudden, as long as your passive is active, you are a huge team fight win as long as you're around, you know, a few multiple targets here. In the meantime, Walk Warlock is full on indexing towards that side lane, saying, I am going to just keep you here. You're not going to get to team fight. It doesn't matter that you come alive earlier than I do, because you're never going to be there, right? So it is the Rod of Ages Navori Flicker Blade combo, and in the meantime, Cocoa Puffs could be in trouble.
Yep, has moving away. Thankfully, that Sejuani passive means that Ashe can't tag a slow onto her, so she's able to just walk out. Turns out the sister buff is pretty good in the Freljord, but we are getting some early item completions here. Cocoa Puffs has been sitting on the Zeke's Heralds for quite some time now. That first item completion so cheap for these tank junglers. Sunrise finally going to finish up that Blade of the Ruined King. So will Riv 60, and it looks like Barolo is also going towards it. I didn't realize that we could put the sword in triplicate here, but I guess having the king on your team means that you can do whatever you want.
I guess so. I mean, you're definitely going to be getting a lot of health stacking on the Sejuani, on the Mordekaiser, so you're going to be able to get some value out of it regardless. In the meantime, this is almost certainly a full kill.
Yeah, Cocoa Puffs is on the way, though, so Walk Warlock hanging on to that ulti. He's going to get pulled into the death realm now, but I'm not sure Coach Silent K actually wants the 1v1 here. Ulti's going to be popped inside that death realm. The lightning storm coming down. Walk Warlock sustaining up, maybe looking for a 1v1, but can't find it. Lightning crash on the back, doesn't find it through Triumph. In the meantime, on the bottom side, Chrome Alone gets caught in mid lane as Sunrise is going to be the receiver of that one.
Yeah, I mean, you throw everything in the kitchen sink. Look at those R buttons and how they are all on cooldown there. Sunrise really the only one still retaining that Heartbreaker. But right now, Hextech Drake being picked up means that the dragon stacking has begun for Dorado Gaming Lambda. But right now, my biggest concern, Brady, is honestly this mid lane pick, right? So Coconut doing very well on the way. Don't get me wrong, right? Having tons of gold on one person always feels really nice. But on the other side of the map, right, you got Efron on the Syndra. And the big thing that Syndra likes to do is say, I don't care how fed you are. I don't care how strong you are. I care about whether or not you can dodge me hitting the R button on your portrait.
Yeah, Syndra's pretty good at just telling one person that they don't get to play League of Legends today, as long as she isn't too far behind. Efron is at about a half item disadvantage currently, but there will be a certain point in the game where Syndra will hit that 120 stack mark, will have 2.5, 3 items in inventory, and one of these squishies is not going to get to play the game, and she doesn't even have to worry about the tanks. And speaking of worrying about tanks, Coach Silent K in the side lane alone. I don't know if you want to be here, as Efron will be granted a kill over by the jungle and support.
Yeah, I mean, we were saying that the squishies were going to be in trouble. Big squishy in trouble right now is Riv 60. Watch in the mid lane as the full-on fight here in the jungle.
Yeah, Chrome alone is going to catch that one, and now Walk Warlock forced to run away with that Stormbreaker. The rest of TFF happy to just get that cooldown out of him alongside that teleport, so they'll walk away, and it ends up being a 1-for-1 overall. Importantly, I think Riv 60 burned that cleanse and that flash.
Yeah, burn the cleanse and the flash, but 4 ultimates from the side of TFF Aftershock here, so it's going to be difficult to fully go in for another fight, but still standing 4 strong down this mid lane, as the rest of Dorado Gaming Lambda are not going to be anywhere near to stop this team from barreling straight down.
Yeah, this game feels like it has been a lot of fighting for both sides, but I feel like TFF has continuously gotten the better of the macro plays. Even while that bottom lane play was happening earlier, Dorado ended up losing 2 top lane turrets there with that Herald usage from Cocoa Puffs. It's just a lot of value across the map, and it's keeping the gold relatively even, despite the fact that Dorado is finding good fights, getting some objectives here and there, taking turrets. It's coming up decently for TFF. As Barolo, flashing onto the wrong side of the map here, is going to be forced to try and walk an awkward path away, but in the meantime, Coach Silent K has been abandoned by the rest of the squad. Has Sunrise in the death realm, can maybe find a big decimating. He's going to find the 1v1. Picks up that kill, and Chrome finds Barolo as well, and TFF come out with a huge fight. It's not over yet, though. Riv 60 caught up by that Spiral of Despair. Walk Warlock's gonna get tagged by it as well. One more Q from IQ of a Coconut, and Riv 60 is QQing all the way to the gray screen. Walk Warlock now the next one on target. IQ does have the red buff, so I don't think Walk Warlock is gonna be walking away for too much longer. QQ's into the minion. You have the lightning strike. Press QW, please. One more tag. IQ of a Coconut goes unstoppable.
All right, and incredibly strong amount of play from the side of TFF Aftershock, as they're just going to continue that into a Baron here, but we'll go straight over to a replay and just watch right here. IQ of Coconut just pelting down Walk Warlock. No Q available for the Volibear. No way how to dodge on out. It doesn't matter how many shields you got, as the fight on the Baron going to be started up here. Hold on.
Down over to Barolo. They end up picking that one up. Efron finds Fallen Warrior as well. Crumbleone uses the Feathers Fly. Gets to safety. Sunrise trying to get into the pit, but he's very low. Oh! Finds the steal! Gets the smite onto the Baron for Dorado! Coach on the case, the next one to fall. Now Cocoa Puffs and Crow alone are forced to try and run away, but Barolo has that hallowed mist. The extra speed for the team. Cocoa Puffs still trying to run, but an excellent route. The stun, every CC landing. They'll find one more on the back half of this in just a second. Sejuani's very tanky with their Aftershock, but Riv 60 picks it up. A huge pickup for Sunrise.
Oh my god, Sunrise pulling a faker and just walking straight on up and taking that one for themselves. Just saying, I can't believe you're gonna start this right in front of me, in front of my jungle. I don't care how much backup I have. I don't care who's behind me, who's in front of me. I care that this Baron is mine. Takes the purple worm for themselves, and in the end, it is a huge turn of gold here for the side of Dorado Gaming Lambda, and this could be huge, as the dragon is going to get started up, and I'm not sure if we're going to get a full-on fight in response, but we might as well expect one.
I think Dorado's happy to just macro this. I think they're happy to trade one dragon away if they can get some priority in other lanes. You see Walk Warlock uncontested in the top side right now, happily pushing away. This mid lane wave is going in. There's 4 members of TFF on the dragon, but guys, you're losing a lot of turrets and a lot of base for this. Be careful.
Yeah, I mean, look at this. So much gold being traded over for this dragon here, as the Baron buff just allows them to get so much damage on these towers. Coach Silent K just does not have the wave clear in order to deal with this on the side. I mean, Mordekaiser really just cannot do so much about this, but oh my god, look at this turnaround. Efron ahead in gold is a crazy thought.
Yeah, it's just the fact that IQ of a Coconut got shut down. You can see Barolo, the recipient of it, now about 2,500 gold ahead, as we're going to jump into a replay here of exactly what happened during this Baron skirmish.
Yeah, I mean, Efron just kind of walks in, flashes on forward, just in a really odd position, but look at this. You're in Baron pit. There's so many choke points available, and Sunrai, what the hell was that? Just goes straight on in, takes the Baron, and there was just nothing that the side of TFF Aftershock could do. I mean, and now begins the long chase for the Sejuani as Coco Puffs tries to get on out, but, you know, Dorado Gaming Lambda, I cannot believe the turnaround on this one.
Yeah, a massive steal from Sunrai. I think really just puts them back in the driver's seat. Ult over one. I love the new Baron pits because you see plays like this where you ult over one wall as the Viego to try and get to safety, but then oh no, there's enemies on the other side, so you flash back over it, and suddenly there's 1,000 health Baron staring you in the face, and you're like, oh, for me, thank you so much, and you just smite it down.
I mean, Sunrai gonna take that one any day of the week here. It's just the same way how they're gonna be taking that blue buff. But in the end, my biggest question here is, what does this mean for TFF Aftershock? The team that has a very, very strong rolling death ball composition here. Jan and Crystalero are gonna be going wide though, as Walk Warlock still looking for more, but actually pushing this lead is going to be a little bit of a struggle until they can get to the point where Volibear can group up. And that's not until that third item really is completed, because the champion's mad squishy until that point.
Yeah, I think it's either going to be third item Spirit Visage or the Cainic Rookern, depending on what Walk Warlock feels like he really needs. I wouldn't be surprised if it was that Spirit Visage. The extra healing and shielding really does love.
Oh, yeah.
It really does feel good for Volibear with that inbuilt sustain. But it's actually TFF now the ones with their foot on the gas, trying to get some extra siege, as they know the wave clear from Dorado, not that strong, as 5 members strong. They're just walking down mid.
Yeah, Walk Warlock still constantly looking for that flank, has to flash on out though, as I said, right? The Volibear is a huge point as to whether or not they can actually walk on in, but never mind, just going to run forward with their 80 carries.
Yeah, it's a lot of ultis being burned there. We saw that Spotlight Despair earlier in the fight just get tossed out, didn't manage to land on anybody. Glacial Fissure used defensively. A lot of tools for both sides used, but nothing really found, as Walk maybe has Coco Puffs here, but with the Arctic Assault should just be able to walk it out. Yeah, that was a little bit of a weird ARAM moment. Everybody, you can take a little reset here, get a little mental reset. We've got side lanes, we can play around them.
Yeah, and in that side lane alone is Chrome alone, and I will say, Volibear, you got to be super careful about the ultimate, the Stormbringer that is available, but no towers in the bot lane to speak of for Chrome alone. Nothing really to retreat to, so instead, just gonna walk all the way back to base. Not even gonna recall. Hold on. Okay.
Sometimes I mean, that's just what you gotta do.
Yeah, I guess, you know, in the end, sometimes there's only so much that you can do. I don't know what the Xayah build is. I'm going to be completely honest with you. Is this like a really late Static Shiv?
I don't think it's Static Shiv. I'm trying to remember what actually... It might be Static Shiv. God, I'm kind of hoping that it isn't, because you have your 2 crit items between ER and Navori, and the next item you really need is the Infinity Edge for this Xayah. You lack a little bit of attack speed, but your autos are just going to be pumping out so much damage. This Baron is going to spawn up. Both teams have vision of it, but Coach Silent K is going to knock that one back.
Ooh,
Dorado playing
rush
entirely towards the bottom side, but I think now the TFF realized, like, hey, Dorado just isn't here. We're just going to start the objective. Is a ward from Walk Warlock in the pit, and they're just immediately going to peel out. Good call from TFF.
Yeah, good call. Efron could scatter the weak, so much damage across the team. I mean, that's what the Baron Shred does, and as mentioned earlier, right? IQ of the Coconut, so much damage, so much gold on this way here, but you have to be really careful, because you're not gonna get much tankier. But right now, objective trade is not going to be what comes through, because Efron is so scary on this side.
Slow. This Baron is going down so slow. It's only down to 10k, and Sunrai is on the way. TFF, you've got to turn or you've got to burn. One of the two. You got to make the choice here, and it looks like they're turning away as Dorado take the... Force TFF off the objective.
All right, and there it is, going to be able to make sure that there's no chance of taking that full-on Baron there. And I mean, when you have neither of your carries comfortable to hit that Baron because both of them are getting zoned off by the Syndra, it makes a lot of sense as to how slow it was. But in the meantime, when you're the team with 3 Blade of the Ruin Kings, you're going to take this thing pretty fast.
Yeah, Coach Silent K is going to spot this out. Blue Trinket as well, used just to guarantee the vision as... So I was saying, walking aid, but you don't have any backup. Efron just blows him up. Still has that unleashed power as well. I keep a cooking on the other side of the wall, but Heartbreaker's pretty damn good at coming across the wall, but so is the Spiraling Despair. IQ Coconut stays up and keeps it alive. Efron finally locks them down and goes on a rampage, but now stuck in a bit of a 1v2 here with Cocoa Puffs and Fallen Warrior chasing them down. Efron forced to flash away, but manages to stay alive, and it ends up being a 2-for-1 at the end of the play as Dorado just continuing to zone off the scattered members of TFF.
Yeah, I mean, so much of that fight, IQ of Coconut was able to survive for just a little bit longer than anticipated each and every time. But in the end, does go down to Efron, who's getting considerably more and more strong on this Syndra. But that all started with Coach Silent K starting up another Schrodinger's catch, where you look for a position, you find yourself in a pretty horrible one, but the enemy team now has to ask the question, are we getting massively baited, or is this just someone who's incredibly out of position? And that time around, it was option number 2, and Coach Silent K going to be going down relatively unceremoniously on the Mordekaiser. But for a little bit, you had that hesitation from Dorado, and it did turn into, at the very least, a bit of a trade. So it's not going to be the full-on Baron take here.
While we've got a second here to breathe, I do want to check on Barolo's stack count on this Senna. We haven't gotten a chance to really look at them over the course of this game. So when we can, I'd like to see just a stack number here from our observer. 131 at 30 minutes. Yeah, Barolo's kind of stacked on the Senna support.
Yeah, you know, just a little bit stacked on the Senna, getting a little bit of that auto range. I mean, with the rapid fire cannon, should absolutely be able to threaten that. I mean, not even having to walk to the wall to get that ward there. But in the meantime, Baron is still barely out of vision as this side lane.
Realm. That's not good for Coach Silent K. Walk Warlock happy to take that 1v1 on line on the volley bear. 10 stacks on a 10 stacks on a run of ages means that this volley bear certified threat now.
Certified threat, and the Spirit Visage isn't even completed yet. I mean, I was saying it earlier, right? The Navori Flicker Blades mean that if you're not ahead on volley, you honestly get a bit of leeway because this item's so unbelievably powerful for the Thunder Bear. But in the end, it is going to be a huge, huge problem for Coach Silent K in the side lane. And the Baron is started up as Volibear is getting caught out in the bot lane.
Yeah, Cocoa Puffs is here, maybe looking to make some kind of miracle steal play. I like Sunrai in the play before, but walks a little bit too far away. The spike's just going to come through. Sunrai grabs that one. They will trade one member for the Baroness.
Oh,
Cocoa Puffs gets a little bit of a stop there on the recalls, but doesn't want to go any farther forward.
Yeah, I mean, Baron does go over as Dorado are just going to continue with this lead here. It's going to continue to try to push for as much gold and as much experience as possible. Dragon Soul, Hextech Soul coming up very, very soon, though, and this could spell disaster for TFF Aftershock. You know, the team that started off with a pretty substantial lead, but so much of it being focused onto their mage mid laner, who, as I said, is not going to be getting any tankier. And Efron is only going to be getting burstier as the game goes on. I mean, right now, I honestly wonder if Syndra's at that 120 stacks yet. I mean, should be a huge, huge threat in this upcoming dragon fight. Do TFF Aftershock want to take this is a huge, huge question. And I honestly don't know if you can.
It's only 117 for Efron, so probably will unlock that extra bit of AP during the fight, but doesn't have it yet. Is going to teleport to make sure that they are here for the objective. I think TFF kind of has to fight for this, because if you give over a Senna, a Hextech Soul, you're never getting in range to engage again. You don't manage to get close in any regard. As Barolo, I think, standing a little bit close for comfort there, as Coco did have the Glacial Prison, but TFF are going to be the ones to force them off, but I say force them off as Dorado just decide, now we can give away this dragon. We're just going to start threatening the base. Teleport being used by Coach Silent K, I believe by IQ of a Coconut as well. Chain Coaster Arrow goes wide. They don't actually end up getting that much. I liked the idea from Dorado, but it doesn't end up executing that well.
Yeah, I mean, the trigger was pulled, but maybe a tad a bit too late there, as Cocoa Puffs once again going to be getting chased out of their own jungle. Sunrai looking to try to make something happen, but I mean, Sejuani still really dang tanky, still pretty dang hard to lock down.
Oh, Coco. Oh, Coco. Oh, no, Glen Coco. You might be in trouble here on the side lane. Does have a bit of tank stats, so maybe not as much in trouble as I thought they might have been. Cocoa Puffs will be able to just walk away. But now it's just a continued Baron push here for Dorado. They still have this Baron for a little bit more time. I think they're trying to find some way to get an objective with this, but trying to do it in the face of Chromalone and IQ of a Coconut just isn't working out. This TFF composition has just plenty of wave clear.
Yeah, meanwhile, top lane, that 1v1 absolutely not going to be going in the direction of Coach Silent K, but Walk Warlock getting locked up here.
Yeah, Chromalone is here as well. I think Walk Warlock might need to use this ulti defensively once they get out of it. There's the feathers fly from Chromalone. They're looking for the burst, but the Volleybear's pretty dang tanky. Pull those feathers back and kill this bear, please! Coach Silent K is finally going to lock it down, but in the meantime, they're losing a lot of steam bottom lane. They do end up losing that bottom lane turret and inhibitor to get that pick on Walk.
Yeah, and Cocoa Puff still just wanting to play the game, still wanting to just take their jungle there. It just says, hey, you know, just I'm but a simple farmer. Give me what I deserve. But in the meantime, Dorado Gaming Lambda just gonna take absolutely everything and leave like some bad house guests.
I mean, this is what you do when you're ahead in a game of League of Legends. You don't let the enemy jungler get their camps. You don't let the side laners collect their farm. You take everything you can safely and make sure that you continue to advance your lead. This is just some great micro play from Dorado. If the macro shapes up a little bit, I think this will be perfect, but the micro is looking great for them.
Yeah, I mean, the huge game warping decisions might not necessarily be the big thing on point just yet, but at the very least, you know, it's a lot of little decisions adding up to that point. 1 step a day means 7 steps a week. So, you know, as long as you can continue to take those steps forward towards that, and is the big thing for Dorado here. But right now they need to take some steps towards the end of the game. You got so much gold under your belt, so much power here. You cannot afford to make a misstep.
Yeah. Not making any missteps, I think, is very important for both these teams. I do also want to point out, Chromalone still not going towards the Infinity Edge. Picked up that shield, though, I think a little bit worried about the amount of dive between Sunrai, Walk Warlock, and the burst coming through from Efron, but it does mean that their damage is going to be significantly reduced in team fights. The threat of this Xayah has to be respected, as Barolo and Coach Silent K are going to trade a flash for a flash there. And honestly, as Coach Silent K, I would be real, outside of your ulti, you're not getting much done on this Mordekaiser, so getting the setup flash out of that, very worth. Good job.
Absolutely. I mean, you are in a position where, you know, the Mordekaiser doesn't really do so much in the later stages of the game, except just remove one person from the team fight. So at the very least, getting rid of the flash on one of the longest range AD carries, if not the longest range AD carry in this game. Oh, absolutely in this game.
Oh, Glacial Prison goes absolutely nowhere, but the Glacial Fissure is great from Fallen Warrior. They found Sunrise. They're going to force him to use the flash and the Heartbreaker to get out of dodge. Barolo on the other side of the fight, happily just playing this 1v3 game. Does eventually get kited down, but now Walk Warlock is here, looking for the damage on the Chrome. The shield will keep alive for a little bit longer, but not long enough. Cocoa Puffs now trying to get down to Rip, but this Blade of the Ruin King Ash does quite a bit of damage, but Hui does more. Ripple traded 1-for-1 at the very least, but shut down over 2 IQ of a Coconut as Sunrise forced to walk away. A messy exchange ends up just being 2-for-2 as Coach, what?
Yeah, but Walk is ending the game in the meantime. There's a reason for that panic there. You can't do that directly in front of Efron. But man, this Volibear has been such a thorn in the side of TFF Aftershock, as right now it is going to be the push to end the entire thing. IQ of the Coconut and Fallen Warrior, the last 2 standing.
They're looking to defend an open nexus here. Walk Warlock just wants it, so do Efron and Sunrise. They're saying, damn the players, damn the KDA, we just want the game one victory. They'll turn around and pick up two. They'll find the game with it as well. Dorado, pick up game number one.
All right. And there it is. Dorado taking game number one in a crucial part of this best of five here. Game number one, always going to be the momentum decider, really going to set the tone of the series. And, bringing in that one sub here on the Senna is a crazy, crazy position to find yourself in for the first game of the semifinals. But man, this team, Dorado Gaming Lambda, is nothing to scoff at, doing incredibly, incredibly well with this death ball composition. But not just a death ball composition, a composition that relied so much on your top laner winning that 1v1 solo in the side lane. And I gotta say, Walk Warlock did not win a 1v1 side lane. Walk Warlock won a side lane regardless of how many people were there.
1v1s, 2v1s. I think there was a couple of 3 and 4v1s in there. Getting caught sometimes, but it was all for the good of the squad. Every death for Walk Warlock meant something for the team, whether it was priority in a side lane, an objective somewhere across the map. It was looking good for everybody. And man alive, I think everybody in this game actually performed exceptionally well. There wasn't any real standout lacking performance. I think there were bright spots for everybody. And this is just game one. We have potentially 4 more games of this series to go. That's right. We're in a best of 5. This is playoffs, baby. We are here for it.
Ooh, baby.
We're going to cut to a short break while we get the draft set up for game number 2. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more Titan Esports Divinity League action. Welcome back, everybody. We are here for game number 2 between TFF Aftershock and Dorado Gaming Lambda. Dorado coming out to a screaming lead here in game number 1 with some decisive plays and some action pretty much all across the map. Hey, Ty, do you want to talk about what happened in that last game?
Yeah, I mean, that was an absolute banger of a match there. I mean, so much of that game was really focused on IQ of the coconut, right? As Cocoa Puffs just would come mid again and again and again and try to punish Efron for the crime of existing, I guess. But it worked out, right? You put tons and tons of gold into the Hui's pocket there, and it was looking great. It was looking fine. And then you looked at the rest of the map, and Walk Warlock was doing super well on the Volibear. Bot lane consistently scaling up with that Ashe Senna. And Efron, despite being put behind, despite being put down again and again, it only took one fight around the Baron where Efron had bursted out IQ of a coconut. And I cannot believe this. Sunrai walking in and stealing away that Baron turns the entire game around. Like, there was just nothing that TFF could do at that point, as the game turning on its head right there with that Baron steal meant that all of a sudden you had a Syndra, you had an Ashe, you had a Senna that were all scaling up to points that you really couldn't deal with.
Yeah, it was a very well, I think, drafted composition there from Dorado. Lots of scaling threats and lots of issues that TFF didn't really have the tools to deal with. And if you want to be able to have the tools to deal with difficult drafts in your League of Legends games, you can give a shout out to our sponsor, ProComms.gg. It's a game changer after the League of Legends community. It's not just like any other tools. It's your personal draft coach, perfect for both teams and solo players. And you can pair it with any other app you use. ProComms stands out with features like custom champion pools, personalized tier lists, and live draft advice. You can think of it like having a virtual draft coach and strategy toolkit all wrapped up into one. They offer real-time champ and ban recommendations. They have already over 200,000 downloads with thousands of daily users just like you. ProComms is user-friendly and is 100% free. It's no-brainer to at least give it a go. Download ProComms now and you'll experience a whole new level of drafting power in your League of Legends games. Go to ProComms.gg, download it from Overwolf, or click on the panel located below our stream.
Yeah, I mean, what more can you say, Brittany? For completely free is honestly a mad nice price to be dealing with there. But I mean, pro comps, huge help to not only us on the stream, but also to some of these teams here, which honestly, after that last game, might be want to be taking a little bit of a look into that one.
We were having
right?
a discussion between the games. There was a certain item that came through in Zaya's inventory that Anti had particular issue with. I'm not going to say any issues about the player or the champion or anything like that. Just the Serpent's Fang during the base defense, I think you had a particular issue with. And I do want to talk about the Zaya build because I felt like Chrome alone had the tools to carry on this Zaya, a composition that could have run into him, but not having that IE just ended up being so detrimental for him.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing about playing an AD carry, right, is you're going to be having oh my goodness, we have we got 2 Mordecai's. What the hell? Anyway, but the big thing here, right, is that when you're playing AD carry, is tons and tons of people are going to be forced to walk into you, forced to try to burst you down, forced to try to do a ton of damage to you. And Chrome alone on the Zaya, right, built in a way to try to really mitigate a lot of that, right? You know, the shield bow to try to defend against that. The, Navori Flicker Blades, that's just a Zaya item. It's always going to be good on her. But a lot of the build was based around living, and Zaya's entire kit already lends herself to that, right? You don't necessarily need so much in the build to play that defensively, but if you looked at some of the ways how Chrome Alone was playing in that last game, so many of the Feathers Fly were used offensively, were used on the chase. And honestly, I think that kind of speaks a little bit of a testament to why we're having a few issues here and there with the build, a little bit of the disconnect here and there, because when you're building specifically to try to survive and your champion's entire job is to try to survive, burning your abilities to try to go aggressively is a little counterintuitive.
Yeah, I think TFF, I'm gonna be honest, I'm gonna be a little frank here. I think they looked a little bit lost here in game number 1. And this is not the TFF Aftershock that we've been seeing throughout most of the regular season. Dorado ended up just picking up priority once they got past like 10-15 minutes through Walk Warlock and through Sunrai on the Viego, just having better 1v1s and having better map movements. And TFF has performed a lot better throughout a lot of the series that we have seen from them. So I want to see them wake up here in game 2 and give us a real series.
Yeah, I would love to see that. And honestly, one thing I would love to see is a first round AD carry pick for the side of TFF, because it felt like Chrome Alone was playing an AD carry that he just wasn't that comfortable on, right? I mean, so much of that Zaya play, while it was, solid fundamental AD carry play, definitely did not scream Zaya player, right? I mean, a lot of it's like, I am on this champion because I can deal with the unleashed power, and that's great. But the rest of it, a little bit more to be desired. And while the Hui first pick definitely paid out dividends, I think that getting an early round AD carry pick, regardless of whether or not you're going to be countered, is still going to be more effective if you're on comfort versus if you're on a theoretical good pick that you're not going to be as comfortable on.
Yeah, especially if Dorado does continue with their draft focus here of these AD carries. We're going to be jumping in here for draft number 2. Sides swapped up here. The score line a little bit lying to you on the screen here. It is Dorado gaining up 1-0, not 1-1. As we're going to continue with the draft, Zeri is that first man for Dorado, so they're going to continue down that marksman focus. I will say something we didn't mention in the first draft. Zeri and Smolder have been getting a lot of play time mid lane, so these could be more targeted towards IQ of a Coconut than they are towards Chrome Alone.
Yeah, I mean, and as we've seen, IQ of a Coconut, very much a player to be targeting, right? I mean, so much gold, so much damage on that Hui despite falling behind. And Alawi, once again, going to be taken off the table here. I gotta say, right? Alawi, one of those champions where as long as you're playing against someone who knows how to play the champion, it can get pretty dang rough. You dodge the E or you dodge the game. That is the one piece of advice I have for you against that champion. So if you ban her out, you don't have to do either of those, right? But in the meantime, Hui gonna get banned by Aftershock here, and this time around, it is going to be Doga on the blue side, or Dogel?
Doggle.
Doggle. Oh, I like that. Doggle's fun. I mean,
Yeah.
doggles are like an actual thing, by the way. Like it's goggles for like military dogs.
Oh, doggles. Yeah, we are going to be seeing the 80 carry snapped up first round for both
Oh,
these teams
okay.
here.
This
the
I
Ash
like.
for Dorado that we did see Riv 60 have a good performance on. Whereas TFF picking up that misfortune that was banned away in round 2 last time around by Dorado and pairing it with the Braum so we don't see Unbreakable into that bullet time.
I mean, Braum pickup super important if you are going to be playing that misfortune, as you know, Braum not only going to be working well with misfortune, just so good against misfortune. You have to make sure that the enemy team isn't thinking of picking it up if it is available. The Xin Zhao here could spell disaster though, as the Karma, which is likely also going to go into that bot lane, is going to once again be another relatively uncommon pick, but still a very powerful pick in this particular composition. The Rek'Sai being picked up here. Now, I will say, last time we saw Rek'Sai meta was in that top lane, but I doubt we're gonna get something quite that spicy.
Yeah, speaking of spice, the early Karma here for Dorado. I know this is a champion that the members of Dorado do play. It does have the flexibility, but at the same time, she's been a little out of the meta, out of sorts. A lot of the meta in the bottom lane, especially for pro play, has been these enchanters and these disengaged champions. Your Renatas, your Alistars, your Rels, your Leonas. We did see Leona banned away, but with Ashe, you have the freedom to pretty much pick whatever support you want that engages, because Ashe does just kind of set them up for free with her autos. So I'm surprised to see Dorado opt into the Karma. I wonder if it does mean it might flex into a solo lane, but
Anivia?
In the meantime,
Anivia blind?
away some of the previous power picks for Dorado and are grabbing the Anivia for IQ of a coconut.
Okay, so I don't know. Anivia, I love Anivia, right? This is a champion that has been around since the very beginning here. But the big issue that Anivia tends to run into nowadays is having to deal with champions that have the ability to just dash away, right? But if you look at the side of, you know, Doggle here, they don't have a single dash on this team in terms of getting away. The single opportunity that they do have is the satchel charge from Ziggs, but because Ziggs' satchel charge is so slow, you can actually use the wall to cancel that one out. And the Kale coming out on top here, okay, so I know that we were saying there wasn't so much spice, but I guess we just had to wait because it definitely kicked in the latter half of that draft.
Yeah, wow, Anivia Kale as the pickups here for TFF. I think really putting the onus on their solo laners. Unfortunately, I think Coach Silent K didn't have an incredible game in game number 1 up against Walk Warlock on that Volibear Mordekaiser matchup. But now on the other side with the Mordekaiser against this Kale, I wonder how he'll be able to actually do, because now the onus really is on Coach Silent K on this Kale, because you have to be a carry. When you hit that level 11, level 16, you have to be strong. You have to be there for your team. And like, if you're not strong, you can apply the Divine Intervention. It's nice, but at that point, you're basically playing 4v5.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be a particularly interesting position to find yourself in. As we're going to be going over to the Rift in just a bit here, but I gotta say, Anivia picked up here is unironically so good. The number one problem that this champion does have is being able to affect the map early on. But we've seen so much priority towards that mid lane from Cocoa Puffs to try to make sure that IQ of a Coconut can really impact the map as quickly as possible. But with Anivia here, right, there is one champion that can dash away from the team, and it is Ziggs, who can very much get stopped up by that Anivia wall. So now with the wall of Anivia, bullet time gets so much more devastating.
Yeah, this is, I think, not the draft we were expecting coming into game number 2. I thought we were going to be seeing a lot of the same picks. Really, only that Ashe and the Braum are the same from this first game. Is everything else is either changed sides or is totally new. And That's also a good point, as we got a trade here on the bottom side. Chrome alone eating some autos, but Barolo's going to be the one to force Flash first. It is PTA on Riv 60, so the extra bit of damage from that Ashe is going to be needed to be respected. As Flash is forward, traded exhausted as well. Riv is forced to Flash away. Rough trades in the bottom lane here for Dorado as they lose every single summoner, as TFF manages to retain their cleanse.
Yeah, and on top of that, Chrome alone, the Soul King in the bot lane, the only one with a summoner left of some kind, but almost nothing to actually use it on, as the continued poke coming on through, going to be feeling pretty dang bad for the side of TFF here. But at the very least, all of that priority early is going to get you this full wave and quite a decent CS lead early on. In the meantime, Coach Silent K not having the greatest of times in the top lane, just looking to try to slow things down, looking to try to control things as much as possible. The Doran shield on Kayle is a little mind-boggling to me, but I mean, what this does say is Coach Silence K says, I honestly just want to hit level 6. Like, I just want to hit level 16, right? I don't care about winning this lane. I don't care about how far ahead you get. As long as I don't die, my teammates will do just fine, and I will get to a point where oh God, never mind. I'm never going to say anything bad ever again.
Coach Silent K is going to be trying to survive it to that level 16 mark, which is the important big point for Kayle. But it's going to mean that Walk Warlock for these first like 6 to 9 levels throughout this game is going to have a pretty free time scaling up. Oh. We got Cocoa Puffs potentially looking for some action here in the bottom lane. Barolo, remember, this Karma has no flash. Cocoa Puffs can just catch up with the movement speed from the Mantra, enough to keep Barolo out of range of the knockup.
Yeah, just barely enough to get on out there, but in the meantime, mid lane, honestly, a little bit of extra, action that we might not necessarily have been expecting to see here, as these two players are so willing and ready to just go toe-to-toe again and again. In the meantime, it is going to be that scuttle trade, but Cocoa Puff's fallen behind quite a bit in terms of that clear speed.
Yeah, this is kind of what happened in game number 1. Sunrise was happy to just full clear out early on, but Cocoa Puffs was looking a little bit more for some early gank setup, and especially with the lanes that you have a Braum, you have an Anivia, you can look towards your mid and bottom lane. You don't pay attention to top lane. Top lane is an island. You ignore them. They are on an island, far away from you. That's a Kayle. You don't touch them.
Yeah, absolutely here. And I gotta say, right now, Coach Silent K needs to find a way to out here, but oh God.
Flash does have the movement speed off of W, so it's going to try and walk away. One more decimating smash, and Walk Warlock is going to pick up the first point.
Yeah, I mean, that Flash being burned at level 1 just pays out dividends here. But speaking of Flashes burned level 1, this bot lane once again going to get a little bit of a visit from Cocoa Puffs, but still no real punish on the lack of flash.
Yeah, I mean, do you really? It's kind of like, does the tree fall? If the tree falls in the forest, does anybody hear it? Question: if you lose your flash at level 1, but you don't get punished for it, did you really lose flash? Like Coach Silent K lost flash. These bottom laners, did they lose flash? Did they really?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that is the big question, right? I mean, no punish on it. The flashes are coming back very soon. I mean, Karma and Braum should essentially have it really fast now. But either way, we're going to have to see what exactly is on the table here, as Dragon going to get started up, but not really going to turn into too much more here. Cocoa Puffs has not been able to do anything on this Rek'Sai. I gotta say.
It's the unfortunate truth of Rek'Sai, where like if you can't get an early unburrow flash on a trade, as speaking of trading, Ivy Coconut has level 6. Efron losing a big chunk of HP. Ivy Coconut flashing forward just finds the solo kill in the mid lane. Anivia gaming in mid.
Oh my lord. It ain't Azir, but Bird is still very much the word here, as IQ of a Coconut with the solo kill into Efron in the mid lane. And once again, this mid lane was picked blind. going to be spelling very, very good things for the side of TFF Aftershock. And the big thing about Anivia getting ahead here, the big thing about Anivia being accelerated here is that Anivia is one of those champions that statistically has a relatively low win rate with later games. Now, that has nothing to do with Anivia not being a late game champion. Anivia is absolutely a late game champion. Now, what this does make a testament to is the fact that Anivia is one of the best champions at stalling out games in the entirety of League of Legends. So, top lane being in this complete disaster train wreck of a position here is not nearly as much of a death sentence as as it could be because of this Anivia. In the meantime, watch this dragon fight is getting pretty dicey.
Yeah, Sunrise not here just yet. So if TFF wants this dragon, they're going to have to run it down pretty quick. Riv can't walk up because they don't have any support, and Chromalone is on the other side. So TFF managed to just walk away after losing some of their health bars to get the Baron, or to get the dragon. As Chromalone's going to pop that bullet time just to make sure that Riv is stuck under tower, clearing these waves for as long as possible.
Yeah, I mean, should be mad fun as the game continues to go on here. As if we look into that mid lane, once again, it is going to continue to be IQ of a coconut, just trying to push that one down. But top lane is so rough. I mean, that's almost 1,000 gold lead for Walk Warlock already. But, I mean, I don't know. The further and further this goes on, it just sounds like Cope, right?
It's Kale, which is what happens in the early game. It loses early, it sucks, but you have that guaranteed win con in the late game. Level 16 Kale, keep an eye on your watch, check that time. But until you get to that point, you're going to sit in lane and you're going to feel bad about like, oh man, I'm really not a champion yet. This sucks.
Yeah, and I will also say, right? So Doggle have a very solid win condition in we're just going to side lane for absolutely forever, right? And usually Anivia would be able to just stop the game from continuing, right? But Zig's one of those champions that can match the wave clear of Anivia, but on top of that can do so much damage to towers the moment that she turns her back for 1 second that it is always going to be a threat of some kind. So, so much of this game relies not only on IQ of a coconut, but on Coach Silent K to get back into a position where you can play the game here. But in the meantime,
into 2 IQ of a coconut. No, the satchel charge. It's too far back. IQ of a coconut gets to keep the passive. Oh, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, in the meantime, just going to continue to clear out waves. And this is the mid lane we're going to be seeing for basically the entirety of existence.
Yeah, it's a wave clear matchup, all right. I imagine Efron and IQ are probably getting close to falling asleep, which is maybe why Efron ends up missing that, but you know what? We don't make too much comment on exactly what happens behind the scenes. As it's another bullet time used for wave clear. I think Chromalone is just happy to continue stacking his call. Already has that BF sorted inventory and he's feeling comfortable about the spot that the lane's in. You're up about 15 CS. It'll even out to 10 as this wave's picked up. This is just a good spot for a Misfortune.
Yeah, in the meantime, top lane, now, finally, with the wave in a fine position, not going to be too concerned here, as everyone gets a little bit of a chance to breathe, right? No big fights, nothing crazy happening just yet, no big objectives really coming online until those Void Grubs, but the big question here is, what exactly is it that TFF Aftershock are going to do to try to deal with those Void Grubs, because you have so much priority in that top side. Mid lane is essentially going to get instant cleared by both mid laners every single time. And the last time around, we did see Doggle just have so much emphasis on trying to get all 6 of those grubs. They sent 5 members up the last time.
Yeah, they do really like the side lane objective. They got the first 3. Sunrise is sitting on a completed Eclipse, so for this fight, will be very, very powerful. And I think TFF kind of needs to respect that first item spike as, yeah, it is just going to be the support and jungler forced off for now, just forced to rotate away.
Yeah, I mean, and especially with Walk Warlock standing there with that Death Realm capability, Cocoa Puffs just cannot really get into the right spot to try to even attempt to steal, right? Because Mordekaiser just says, I don't like the way you're looking at me. I don't like the way that you're looking at my jungler. I don't want to be dealing with that. And we got a teleport in the bot lane.
Oh, it's a 3v1 for Riv 60, and I don't know if Ash is going to live this one. A nice flash away. Manages to get out. The Glacial Fissure is still there. Do they have the damage to actually finish Ash off under tower? It will get picked up. IQ the Coconut slowed up. One more turret shot doesn't come through. And the Mega Inferno Bomb just a little bit off center means that a very nicely executed dive for TFF.
Yeah, and that's the problem with playing these dashless champions against Anivia. The moment that the flash is burned out, there's just nothing you can do. And speaking of flashes, Fallen Warrior, you're just gonna have to burn that flash to get on out of there. And another ulti for the wave for Chrome alone here.
Is that
It's just I don't know. Like that's just the name of the game, right? It's just wave clear on wave clear on wave clear until you get into a big fight, until your Kale actually gets online, and then we're gonna start to see things really, really blow up.
Yeah, we're talking a lot about Kale being able to scale into this game, but it's also on Dorado to shut this game down early. We are seeing these early item completions for them. Walk having that gun, not gun belt, it's proto belt. I was thinking of gunblade. God, I'm old.
I miss gunblade.
Sunrise
I miss gunblade
as well. Efron pretty close to finishing up an item as well. Sunrise, but the wind becomes lightning. We'll spot out Cocoa Puffs here on the dragon.
The flash?
They're looking for Riv 60 again. A nice cleanse away. Riv is also going to cleanse, but Chrome alone has the flash to follow. They're looking for the Ash, but can they find her? They don't have the damage to follow up. Now Barolo, the one in trouble, but one Dorado can't come through. The exhaust is too good. Efron finds it. Walk Warlock now teleporting in, picking up the death realm onto IQ of a Coconut, looking for the punish. The Decimating Smash doesn't find it, but it's a double kill over to Efron. A Spawn Warrior is forced to run away. Anivia in the death realm pops out, ready to be cooked by the Mordekaiser. It's a huge team fight win for Dorado.
And it's just like we were saying, Brady, it's just going to be wave clear on wave clear until you get to that one big team fight. And this time around, it is Dorado coming out on top here. Coach Silent K finally getting a chance to get some gold off in that top lane. But TFF Aftershock are not feeling good about this one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be honest, it's a little strange that TFF does choose to force out that dragon fight. You know you're going to be either 4v4 or 5v5 and not in the best of positions. Your Kale, even if she could teleport down, is not going to be the most helpful. The Mordekaiser is just going to provide more, and it was just a little bit of an overforce there from TFF as Efron has the satchel charge, so we'll be able to walk away. But we should be hopping into a replay here to check out exactly what happened during that fight.
Yeah, I mean, just take a quick look at this one as in the end, Walk Warlock gonna get that Death Realm set onto IQ of a Coconut. And in this position, there's essentially no way out of that Egg Death Realm here. In the meantime, Fallen Warriors tries to get on out, pops the ultimate, but still nothing's gonna save you from the satchel charge from this team. And a full shutdown onto Walk Warlock on that top lane. Oh boy.
Yeah, pick on live. I believe that kill credit did go over to IQ of a Coconut, so extra gold over to the Anivia, and a good punish on that side lane also means that Dorado won't be able to have this Rift Herald for themselves. But in the meantime, they are just kind of split pushing bottom lane. You see almost every member of Dorado down there just making that push happen as the Mega Inferno Bomb says goodbye wave.
Yeah, Mega Inferno Bomb said goodbye in the same way that Anivia ulti said goodbye to Coach Silent K's wave. Unfortunate for the Kale, but in the meantime, pretty dang unfortunate for TFF Aftershock, as that's so much damage onto these towers. 6 Void Grubs is nothing to scoff at here, and you are not winning this tower trade.
Yeah, this is just good macro again from Dorado, and TFF not really respecting it. They're going to finally send IQ of a Coconut down to deal with this wave, but you end up losing so much for it, and you trade turrets 1 for 1, but against the team with 6 Void Grubs, trading 1 for 1 turrets is good for them. They're happy with that.
Yeah, I mean, they are doing just fine with that one, but I don't know. Right now, the big question is, what do you do in order to slow down this game for the side of TFF Aftershock? And on the other side, what do you do as Doggle to really start to kick this game into gear? I think the biggest real engage tool that they do have is looking for picks with the Enchanted Crystal Arrow from Riv. I mean, they really don't have much opportunities outside of running at you slightly faster than the average person can, and firing off a big arrow that does freeze people all across the map. So, I mean, if you're going to look for a hard stun or just simply walking a little bit faster, I'm going to take the hard stun.
Yeah, I have to say, I've got a bone to pick with Barolo here. We've been talking about item builds a little bit here. This Karma build, I'm going to be real, it's dead. It was nice while we had it, it's no more. Malignus plus Zazax just doesn't do enough. Enchanter items are the best that they have been in quite a long time. Please use and abuse them. Ardent Sensor is really good. Staff Flowing Water is really good. Zazax got nerfed. Malignance got nerfed. Run Dreammaker. This item is so good. Please, Enchanter players, you don't need to build damage anymore, especially when your team is full damage across the board. You have one bruiser who is building full damage items as Cocoa Puffs misses the Rift Herald, but we don't have to worry about that.
Well, I mean, right now, I think what they have to worry about is some kind of response from the side of Doggle here. I mean, top lane, Coach Silent K is going down once again here, but there's that Enchanted Crystal Arrow we were talking about.
Yeah, they're looking for Fallen Warrior, getting some autos down. In the meantime, that top dive is going to be dissuaded by the teleport from IQ of a Coconut. They'll take the one kill, though, and they're also going to burn the heal out of Fallen Warrior. Now, Riv is the one in trouble. Exhaust onto Cocoa Puffs, still holding on to that Void Rush. Maybe looking for an execute onto Riv, but doesn't want to go under tower to get it. But now, walking a little bit too far forward, back into the minefield of Ziggs. Cocoa Puffs looking for a trade, but not then do when Marolo's going to find that last hit.
Yeah, and just like that, it's looking worse and worse for TFF Aftershock. They're getting slowly put further and further behind these towers, going further and further down. Barolo now in a little bit of trouble, but you've got your entire team behind you. You got a mega Inferno Bomb behind you as well, as there's just nothing that's going to be able to let you walk straight on in here. Another red tower goes down, and no teleport on the Anivia tells us that TFF Aftershock are just going to be giving up this dragon entirely.
Rolo looking for a Mantra Q, doesn't manage to find it. And yeah, it's just... TFF does have the scaling win con, but they also have an early lane bully in the bottom lane. They have their Misfortune who wants that first item BT run at the enemy AD carry, make their life difficult. But at the same time, you also have Anivia Kale who want to sit back and scale and play the slow game and look for the later game team fights. But it feels a little bit disconnected here, whereas Dorado, they have a team that just wants to sprint at you, and that's all they really need to do. They're going to run full force at you, and if you can stop them, you win. But if you can't, you're going to lose. And speaking of not being able to stop the Fallen Warrior, one in trouble, Enchanted Crystal Arrow lands onto the demigod of the Freljord. Flash out of IQ, but just into an egg to once again be served up for breakfast here for Dorado, as Walk Warlock has Crumble Load inside the Death Realm. A nice pullback with the Obliterate to the face. Absolutely decimates that AD carry.
Yeah, and just like that, Pretty gods can bleed, demigods can be eaten, and TFF Aftershock can get completely routed here, as this tower is going down just as quickly as the first one did. Ziggs does so much of this tower damage, and when you got so many members of Doggle in the right position at the right time, TFF Aftershock just never have the answer. And once again, another one of those great fights, great picks started off with the Enchanted Crystal Arrow from Riv 60, and look at this gold just slowly ballooning again and again. Coach Silent K 2,000 gold down on this Mordekaiser, and don't get me wrong, Kale does still have that level 16 win condition, and Anivia is still very, very good at stalling out these games, but it's looking more and more difficult as this game progresses.
Yeah, we do have a replay to hop into here in just a second. Yeah, it just was a great first pick here for Dorado as they slammed the Enchanted Crystal Arrow onto that squishy target.
Yeah, and in the meantime, Death Realm also going to get popped onto Chrome Alone, and Walk Warlock just doing so much damage. Like, how do you deal with this? And first tower goes down so fast, don't even need the satchel charge, but still going to be able to pop it anyway with that Demolish proc. And second tower also going to be going down super, super fast. Look at Efron with that Ziggs damage, with that satchel charge. And in the meantime, objective bounties finally on board for TFF Aftershock, as the Baron is now available. vision around the Baron is getting cleared out, and Doggle is looking to take the lead in this series. Not just take the lead, to take set point.
Yeah, they are looking on the cusp of match point if they can continue their dominance throughout this game. Fallen Warrior forced back, but has the Unbreakable on. Should be fine, but the Enchanted Coaster Arrow is onto that Braum. Squishy as can be at this point in the game. It's a lot of Freljord champions. This game is very cold, and it's being cold to TFF Aftershock as Kopuff's forced to just slide away there with the tunnels. And it feels like it's just Dorado continuing to own the map. Coach Silent K is only level 13 at this point in the game. They need so much more time to actually be online on this KO.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. The TFF Aftershock's composition, as far as I'm concerned, has a lot of, ability to make things happen, provided that you have so much, how do you call it? Prerequisites finish, I'll say. Right? And so many of the prerequisites really start off with the game does not blow up in your face. Coach Silent K can hold their own against Walk Warlock. IQ of a Coconut does not lose a single tower mid lane. And none of those three prerequisites have been completed here. And right now, you're sitting on a team composition that wants to scale up, that wants to get to those late game points against a team composition whose entire job is to say, I don't want you to do that. And Doggle have very much gotten themselves into a good position to make sure that they don't get a chance to do that. In the meantime, it's just a matter of trying to pour golden experience into these carries, trying to give them a chance to really scale on up here. Chromalone looking to finish up that Bloodthirster's second item here on the Misfortune. Gonna always have that overheal shield, so you're not really ever going to be losing out on that strut, especially with that, Swifty boots. You're going to be able to run circles around this team, theoretically speaking, until you get Sunrise just jumping directly on top of you, until you get the rest of Doggle walking at you at slightly faster than average speeds with that mantra E. But it should be very, very difficult for the side of TFF Aftershock to really put a stop to this.
Yeah, it's a rough spot, I think, for TFF, because assuming that this game goes as it's looking and Dorado does win the second game here, it feels very reminiscent of the regular season where you went down 2-0 against Dorado. You ended up losing that series, and it feels bad as the undefeated team to lose that series. And now to meet them again in playoffs when they are the 4th seed and you're the 1st and be in a similar spot, mentally it's rough, as TFF looking for any way to try and find a punish here, but they're just going to force out a lot of ultis here. They may have found Walk Warlock, but Walk Warlock still has the Death Realm. IQ of a Coconut in there, but does have to be respected. The Synivia provides plenty of damage. Walk gonna get the flash over the wall. Will get away from that Rek'Sai. No Unburrow coming through there. And it's just some summoners and some health bars traded for the Dragon for Dorado, and they're looking at Soul Point.
Yeah, they're looking at Soul Point, but if you look at top lane, Efron's alone with that top tower, going to be able to just deal so much damage to this. Honestly, the entire tower might go down. That's Ziggs that you're leaving alone there. And I don't know what you can do on the side of TFF Aftershock, right? You're losing out on fights 4v5. You're not able to really get a full-on engage. Nobody's willing or able to pull that trigger. But right now, you're losing out on two fronts. You have to make something happen.
Yep, first inhibitor turret is going to go down. This Baron buffed Siege from Dorado. He's just slowly making life more difficult for TFF. They don't have a real go button outside of that Glacial Fissure, and when it's gone, maybe if you can tag somebody with a stun off of Brawn passive, maybe you can find a pick there, but you don't have a go button. You don't have a Malphite to say, okay, we're engaging, we're finding a team fight. You've just got a wave clear, and you're trying to defend a base against Ziggs Karma Ash.
Yeah, I mean, it's just... What do you do as TFF Aftershock here, right? I mean, you've got your Nivea on 2 items. That's cool. Your Kale's on 2 items, 2 levels away from level 16. But right now, it just feels a little bit like Copium, Like, it just feels way too little, way too late, as you're down 10,000 gold. And I don't know if there's a power spike on the planet that will turn that one immediately around.
It gets to a certain point in the game where you have to rely on the opposing team making a mistake, getting something wrong that you can punish. And throughout this series, Dorado has not gotten a lot wrong. They have made a lot of excellent macro and micro calls. They have made life difficult for TFF, and they are continuing to make life difficult here in this game number 2. And if they continue to just not make mistakes and play well and find opportunities that, like, even if they are getting someone caught on a side lane, they're making a trade happen for it. The worst play they're making is even, and the best is getting them ahead. They're never in a losing spot.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look at just how much power their solo laners have, right? I mean, Warlock is walking straight up into this top lane. There's no way how to really stop the Mordekaiser. And in the meantime, you know, Efron always going to be able to threaten these towers. And right now, with the push of the waves just straight in towards that base, it is going to be Doggle setting up for this Baron that's coming up in less than a minute now. And honestly, I think that TFF Aftershock need to find a way how to stop this Baron. And not just stop this Baron, they need to find a way how to take a fight around this Baron when Doggle have all of that resistance shreds, right? Your Kale is almost level 16, but I feel like waiting and hoping that the game gets to that point is a little bit of a mistake.
It's a bit copium at that point. You need to hit level 16. If you don't hit 16 before this fight, you're going to have to try and find the fight anyway, because if this Dorado team gets Baron again with Ziggs, with Karma, with Ashe, you're not going to be able to defend your base. The extra magic resistance, the extra health that comes through on these minions is going to make life so difficult for your wave clear members, especially for your Anivia. I mean, if you're not burning a bullet time on that ulti or on that wave, what really can you do? But it looks like TFF have decided that maybe they can find a pick on to Warlock, but they better make this one quick, because there's a Baron being taken on the other side of the map. Can they even make a 1-for-1 as Warlock is going to pull Crumble into the death realm, the decimating smash that obliterates 80 carry health bars. Warlock just finds the 1v1. It's looking for Coach Silent K as well. It's going to get stunned up, and there's no real damage just yet. IQ of a Coconut is going to come in, but the Ash Arrow from downtown
Oh my god,
makes Warlock an invincible monster. 3-for-1, you maniac. Warlock walking away from the play, not even 3-for-1, 3-for-0. What a play from the top lane.
1v4 against the Mordekaiser always starts as a 1v1. And Chrome Alone, trapped in that death realm, flashes away, cleanses away. It doesn't matter what you do. Nothing can stop you from this man's wrath. Picks up the Mordekaiser in game number 2 and says, hey, Coach, I saw what you were doing that last game. This is how you play the champion, and this is how you win a game. Doggle just going to take game number 2, putting themselves in a very, very good position to take the entire series against the first seed.
What a showing here from Dorado. Coming up in this series, I think decidedly as the underdogs, given how their season ended. A rough spot for them, falling into that 4th place spot after the Monkeys found their hype train, found their footing, got into the season. Now on the cusp of knocking the first seed out of finals. A huge showing from the Dorado game members. And I think, honestly, what was expected from them from day one, but we're happy to see them show up regardless.
Yeah, if there's a time to show up, it's in the playoffs. And honestly, Dorado, if you're looking to pop off, playoffs are a great position to find yourself for that one. And they're doing all of this with a sub. Like, Islamic Samurai is not here, right? Instead, Barolo is going to be holding down the fort in that support position. And Warlock, what in the world are you doing up there? I mean, the Warlock title has got to be more than just a gamer tag, because man is working magic up there.
Yeah, an incredible showing from the Dorado members. Again, on the cusp of knocking the first seed out of playoffs and giving themselves a ticket to finals, plus a little bit more that we'll be able to talk to you about after the break here. We'll see you on the other side as we give a quick announcement and a draft for potentially our final game of the night.
unbelievable. I see you looking at me, looking at you. Hold up, where you going? What you doing? Who you seeing? What you need? What you want? I said, without you by my side, my side, my side. Without you by my side. One time from side to side. Without you by my side, I can't go outside. Without you by my side, I can't go outside. Without you by my side, I can't go outside. One time from side to side.
Welcome, everybody, to tonight's coverage of the Titan Esports Divinity League playoffs. We're here for the draft of game number 3 in just a little bit. Game 2 finishing off, Dorado setting themselves to match point in a potential upset here up against the number 1 seed of TFF Aftershock.
Not only is it a potential upset, it's a potential for a swift 3-0 and a handshake. Pretty. I mean, this team, Dorado, comes in here, the 4th seed of playoffs. Definitely not looking like the 4th seed, I'm saying.
Not at all. Dorado has always been a very successful organization. We've seen them in other leagues. If you're paying attention to leagues like Aegis, Risen, Titan, you know that these are good players and they are damn good at what they do. So coming into this playoff, I think even with Dorado being the number 4 seed, nobody was really expecting that to be like, oh yeah, this is the 4th weakest team out of these 4. But Dorado are proving that they probably should be one of the first strongest teams throughout this playoff seeding. They are handing it to TFF.
And so much of that is off of the back of Walk Warlock. I mean, this monster of a player in that top lane just constantly playing so well, playing to the win condition really powerfully. And I gotta say, right, I mean, this Mordekaiser was such a huge powerhouse this game around. And not only is it a huge powerhouse this game, that was a takeaway from Coach in the first game. Because, you know, Walk Warlock just decided to say, hey, I saw the way how you played the Mord. That's not quite how you play it. Let me show you a thing or two.
Yeah, Walk Warlock putting on a performance there in game number 2. I think all of the Dorado members playing excellently throughout the game and throughout the series, honestly. TFF, I think, repetition from game 1. It just doesn't feel like they're fully awake here in this series. It feels like they're still kind of warming up, and Dorado has put their feet on the gas and have just said, okay, if you're not going to respond to everything we have, if you're not going to punish anything we do on macro, we're just going to come out swinging.
Yeah, I mean, that's just kind of how it's been. I do think, Brittany, right, that if you're going to find yourself in this position and you're going to find yourself down, you have to take a step back, right, and think to yourself, what is it that we can do? How can we put ourselves in a winning position? You know, what is going on here? So one thing that's consistently happening is Walk Warlock is always consistently finding the upper hand on Coach Silent K, whether or not it's with jungle intervention, right? A lot of this continued play from Walk Warlock is just another step above Coach Silent K, and it's been rough for Coach here. So honestly, at this point, I think you just have to put Coach on a tank, on a champion that will be available from, you know, behind. And in the meantime, IQ of a Coconut going to be continually getting the upper hand on Efron, but on these champions that really don't come alive until much later into the game. And yes, it'd be nice to have IQ of a Coconut have so much more of that damage share on a hyper carry later into the game. But you need to put him on a champion that spikes a little bit earlier, right? Because if you get all of that gold early on, you get that solo kill, that first blood onto a Nivea, that's cool. You can clear waves a little faster, a little earlier, right? You don't really get the same kind of deal as, oh, Kindred just got first blood. We might lose the game, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that same kind of pressure. And obviously, I'm not saying you pick Kindred mid. Please don't pick Kindred mid. Like, it's just a champion I threw out there. But the idea here is, you know, you have a champion that has so much power in this early game. And I would love to see IQ of a Coconut on a champion like that. Just as I would love to see the eventual finals of Divinity League and the eventual finals of the Titan Esports Leagues in, you know, a little bit of... I'd love to see some of these finals as we come into these.
Yeah, and speaking of those finals, these players are not just playing for their opportunity to, get into the finals, win that chip
Hmm.
for themselves. There is an event coming up in the near future, the Battle of Titan versus Aegis. Each league with its similar cap, Immortal, Marauder, Eternal, Executioner, etc., are going to be facing off against each other in series with the top two teams from each league coming to swing against each other. Now, I am a caster who has casted for both Titan and Aegis, so this is going to hurt my heart watching these teams
Hmm.
play. But my goodness, is it going to be some exciting League of Legends. I love seeing these cross division play come together, and it's incredible to see Titan and Aegis be able to work together for an event like this.
Yeah, I mean, that's the beauty of League of Legends. It really draws together a lot more people and draws together a lot more communities. And this is one of those moments that we get to see, the merging of these two communities, getting a chance to really see them go toe to toe, right? See who has the upper hand here. And I do believe I'm not actually available for a few of these games, unfortunately, because I'm going to be out and about, but I would love to be able to be there at the front row, just being able to see these Titans and Aegis sees
Aegis, yeah.
duke it out, right? Initially I was just gonna say these Titans duke it out. It's like, well, I mean, you got Titan on one side.
Yeah.
It's a little bit rough on that end.
Our Divinity League will be facing off against the Aegis Protector League, an Emerald 3 cap versus an Emerald 4 cap, the minorest of differences there.
Mhm.
Up on September 14th. So mark that date down in your calendars for the future and keep your eyes for any extra announcements coming through from that. But that is another thing that both these teams are playing for, because whoever ends up winning this series today is going to be guaranteed a spot in this event. And currently, right now, it's looking like Dorado as we're going to hop into the draft for game number 3.
I mean, here we are, game number 3, and TFF Aftershock have once again opted for that red side. I mean, looking for that counter pick seems to be the name of the game here. And once again, Doggle going to continue to take away those 80 carry picks, likely going to see the Zeri and the Smolder ban in the same way that we've seen it each and every time, as the Leona, as always, going to be taken off the table here. And I gotta say, right, the Misfortune pick for TFF was very, very good in the last time. The Ashe, on the other hand, very, very good for Doggle on the other side. But I gotta say, Brady, I do like the picks themselves. I do think that there are a few adjustments that need to be made by the players, not just in terms of the way how they're playing, but in terms of the way how they're building, right? I mean, builds themselves are easily the very, very simplest way to just find a way to optimize, right? And when you're playing a lane bully like Misfortune, right, you have so much ability to just constantly poke down your opposing laner, how to constantly walk around them as fast as you want if you have the overheal shield on Bloodthirster. And not picking up that early Bloodthirster was a little bit of a concern here, but this time, no Bloodthirster in sight. Are we gonna get a Kaisa Nautilus?
I mean, Nautilus is unbanned. Leona is banned away, so it's a likelihood. They could just pick away Ashe Nautilus if they wanted to have that potential pick away, but it is going to be the Nocturne here for TFF. Cocoa Puffs looking to, I think, play a little bit more passive here in game number 3. Swap up the playstyle in some regard, because these early ganking paths, these junglers that need to get on the map early and get their lanes ahead, hasn't really been working out for TFF. So this time, the onus a little bit more on that level 6 mark for Cocoa Puffs, whereas Sunrai is going to be back on that Viego that had so much success in game number 1.
Yeah, I mean, that Viego was doing so well in game number 1 immediately after that huge steal on the Purple Worm. It really only took that one big play to really start sending this series in a spiral here. And there we go. The Rel gonna get picked up here. So it is bot lane and jungle picked up for both sides. And honestly, if I'm TFF here, I just pick up a tank. Just pick up a tank. The Mordekaiser's banned away. Just slap coach on Ornn or some kind of tank
on Ornn
that
duty,
you can play. Like Ornn, Malphite. Like there's so many tanks here that no matter how far behind you are, as long as you hit level 6, as long as you hit, a little bit of that extra moment, then you should be fine, and save that counter pick for IQ of a Coconut.
I think IQ of the Coconut, despite the losing scoreline here for TFF, has been having a monster of a series in this solo lane. And they are going to be saving counterpick for him in the mid lane as they're going to slam down the Mundo. This is the champion we were talking about between broadcasts. This was the champion you as an Aurelia player are always happy to see against, as well as I would say the Fioras and potential counterpicks. For Dorado, it is going to be the Aatrox, though, up there in the top side. And I think this is still a fair enough matchup versus the Mundo. Mundo should be able to counteract this, but that is a blind Cassio for Efron in the mid lane. This is a bit of a staple for him in the mid.
Yeah, Efron going to be dropping that
Ooh.
Cassiopeia. And I
like
feel the Coconut on the Veigar. So I will say, Veigar, not exactly the earliest spiking champion. But Veigar as a champion in this draft, unironically so good here. I mean, they don't have a real engage outside of Braum Ultimate, the craziest petrifying gaze, or the classic walking forward a little bit faster than normal, right? I mean, when you got Ashe on your team, you got Enchanted Crystal Arrow, and you've always got the ability to walk slightly faster than the enemy team at the very least. If you can bring down the average walking speed, you can walk slightly faster than normal. So, I mean, when that is your only real way how to find an engage, that baby cage from Veigar, so powerful at stopping that one up and making sure that there's very little that this team can do in order to get into that backline, in order to get towards that Kai'Sa, towards that Veigar. But right now, the big question is, can TFF bring it back from the brink now that they got their backs against the wall?
Yeah, I do like the Veigar. I think Dorado has a pretty short-range composition outside of that Enchanted Crystal Arrow. You're looking at a short-range mage in Cassio, Ashe, who has enough range by herself, but doesn't have any mobility, so she gets caught in a cage. She's gonna die. It's a lot of short-range engage and not a lot of go buttons for the Dorado comp, whereas you have trying to get any sort of engage versus Rel, Veigar, Mundo. This is going to be a rough game for Dorado. I do think they should be able to find a win here. I think they have enough scaling power with their Ashe and Cassio that in the late game, as I drop my pen, they'll be able to have enough just like 5v5 power, and as well as it's just been better macro, I think, for Dorado across the series. They have just been finding better priority in lanes. They've been playing the side lanes better, playing the objectives better. And if TFF isn't on their game here for game number 3, I think I might have to change my prediction to a 3-0 sweep for Dorado.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely see the concerns here, Bernie, but what I will say, right? Nocturne is unbelievably underrepresented at this elo and at this level of play, right? I mean, the champion with the paranoia not only has the ability to get around the map in positions that a lot of players aren't ready for, but most importantly, turning off the lights in a competitive match like this, where so much of it is being able to communicate and being able to see your teammates and play around them, just messes with so many teams. Like, so many teams, even at the higher levels of play, struggle against this champion purely because of the utility of that ultimate. So I think Coco Puffs bringing it out in game number 3 when his back's against the wall, honestly, is a very, very good position to find yourself in. Because yes, this team has the ability to kite away and to kite forward every which way that they want to, provided that they can see everything, provided that they know where their teammates are, provided that they know they have backup. And I don't know if Doggle's always going to have that available to them.
Yeah, that is going to be the question, whether that paranoia is going to be good enough for TFF to be able to find this game win and keep themselves alive in the series, or if Dorado are just going to continue their warpath to finals, I'll say. Again, despite their loss to Literal Monkeys, this has been one of the better looking teams throughout our regular season. And when they win hard. This is feeling like a very comfortable spot for Dorado to be in. Even if they do end up dropping a game here to TFF, I still think they are in a fine enough spot in the series. They've had good drafts. They've had good macro. They've had good micro. They're playing very well. And again, it's just going to be on TFF to get out of bed, roll out from under the bed, and just say, "Hey, we're here to play, and we're here to fight for our spot in finals. We want to go for the chip."
Yeah, get a cold splash of water in the face, get that cold brew going and get locked in because it's do or die time. And you've been doing a lot of dying.
Unfortunately, yeah, there has been some, I think, issues for TFF across the map, just not finding the right spots to get together, not trying to find, the perfect bit of team fighting for themselves, and they've just been being kind of pulled apart by Dorado. And Dorado is always a team that has had excellent macro throughout our season. We've seen it before, we've seen it again. You see one team go for the dragon, they're just like, all right, you guys can have the dragon. We're going to push it down mid. We're going to make life difficult for you. We're going to take an inhibitor. We're going to force you to start playing our game instead. They always are a team that is looking for priority and are keeping the momentum in their own hands.
And honestly, right now, my big concern is TFF Aftershock, I think, have been playing a little bit scared. Most specifically, Coach Silent K understands that he is not getting the upper hand on Walk Warlock. Like, this is exactly what that last game told us. With that Kale, with that Dorn's shield pickup, the man's playing to try to get to the win conditions, but not playing to win, right? It's a matter of, I don't want to be the reason why my team loses, which paradoxically kind of folds in on itself. So right now, what I need to see from this player is a little bit of a confidence boost, right? If you can play the Mundo, that's great. Just pick up your items. Don't pick up, that, that Bramble Vest. You are not going to be losing to Aatrox in the early fights.
Start running them over.
Yeah. Like, you're not losing to Aatrox in early fights because he's healing more than you. You're going to be losing to Aatrox in early fights because you're not going to do enough damage. You're not going to be able to tank enough damage. And if you're just going to delay your builds like that, it's going to be a rough moment. And I don't know. I giving advice on cast to teams that are very much not going to be hear it, not very helpful, but I want to see more League of Legends. I did say I think that TFF might be seeing that win in the end, but if we're not looking for a Silver Scrapes, why are we here?
If we want the best of 5 to go to 5 games, we do apologize for the delay. We're just working on getting ourselves in it to gain our production in the back. War Eagle and Sherigan just making sure that, everything runs as smoothly as possible and we get it properly. We are in the loading screen right now, so in just a couple more seconds, we will be on the Rift. Now, Anti, I'm going to ask you the question that every caster hates being asked. If you're looking at these drafts from a total blank slate, it's 0-0. You're not looking at any nameplates. You're not seeing anybody. Do you think either of these drafts have like a significant advantage, or do you think that it's just going to be kind of even across the board?
Well, that's honestly the thing is this draft actually, I think, does come down to a skill matchup. And level one at the very least, is very much Doggle. That Braum does so much work level 1, and Fallen Warrior could be in a little bit of trouble. Spots out the rest of the team, though.
Yeah, not fast enough on that rotate, so Fallen Warrior will not be forced to lose anything here. Just gets that extra bit of information for the squad. Try to play for that 5-man level 1. I like the look for Dorado. They don't manage to find anything, and it is going to give up some extra vision on their top side of the map.
Yeah, and what I will say, right? So, as you're saying, this is compositions from both sides that honestly have very clear-cut ways how to find their wins, how to find their openings. And that's why I say it's tough, right? Because it does come down to a skill matchup. But as we've seen, Doggle has been coming out on top of the skill matches, but the question is, who's coming out on top where? In the mid lane, the skill matchup is much less of a real talking point, right? Because Veigar getting ahead on IQ of a coconut, as we've seen time and time again, doesn't really mean so much. In the meantime, bot lane going all the way in at level 1.
Fallen Warrior looking for the crash down level 1. They'll get a positive health trade into Barolo. So it will look pretty okay for TFF. This is the power of that Kaisa level 1. Those plasma procs can do so much damage, but Ash Braum, if you make one positioning misplay, you can die. Fallen Warrior, you don't have Aftershock here. Has has to lose that flash. Flash forward from Rift 60. It's just first blood for Dorado again. Now Chrome Alone's the one in trouble. Exhaust is going to come down. They're going to force the flash out of the Kaisa. A huge win for the Dorado in a 2v2.
Yeah, and Fallen Warrior just pops in way too hard, way too early. I mean, at that point, you got to look for that level 2 power spike, but not going to be going for it. And it's already looking so good for Doggle.
Yeah, not having Aftershock means you are as squishy as every other champion at this point in the game. And for Fallen Warrior, it means losing that flash and losing their life. Rift 60 feeling pretty happy to have first blood in their inventory. And I'm not going to ring the death tolls for TFF just yet, but man, that play is rough because this bottom lane is only going to get rougher.
Yeah, I mean, that auto attack range discrepancy is going to feel pretty dang tough in the bot lane here. In the meantime, mid lane, Efron and IQ Coconut still going to just continue with the quick trades. Nothing too crazy between these two. I'd be hard pressed to see Vigar or Cassiopeia get a kill this early on. But in the meantime, top lane, Coach Silent K, honestly, just vibing. Doing fine.
This
in his own lane, flourishing.
You chill, you vibe, you just hang out. I do want to say Walk Warlock. I love this new Aatrox skin. I love the Q animations. They feel very weighty and very heavy. Maybe the auto attack animations make me sad because it feels bulky,
not as fun.
Slow. It's not as nice. I like other Aatrox. I like the big skin Aatrox animations because they're very smooth, slidey. He's got weight, but he's also got momentum. Whereas this one is kind of just like he's dragging that sword through everything he sees.
And then like the moment that you do get that passive proc up, it goes from, you know, super smooth to I'm stabbing the hell out of whatever this thing is.
Yeah, it's a rough stab. I think the skin is very good, but we're not here to talk about skins. We're here to talk about the game itself. I think we are outside of the bottom lane scuffle that we saw, expecting kind of a slower game. Both Cocoa Puffs and Sunrise want to have level 6 on their junglers, and these lanes are going to be pretty passive for the most part. I don't expect outside of this Kaisa Rel that we'll be seeing a lot of action, but with the giving up of the first blood, I think it means that they have to play a little bit safer now.
Yeah, I mean, in the meantime, Cocoa Puff's just going to continue to farm up. Still looking for those Krugs there, but I gotta say, right? Falling behind against an Ashe at level 1 is pretty terrible. Like, the moment that she comes back to lane, you know, she'll have a little bit more move speed than you because she's absolutely going to be picking up boots, and all of a sudden, you know, she can just walk all over you and chase you so far down. There's not a champion in the game, I'd say, that's better than Ashe at walking forward in bot lane.
Yeah, especially with the... It's not Cosmic Insight, it's the approach velocity rune where you just get extra movement speed on targets that you or your allies have crowd controlled. It's Ashe's bread and butter. She loves to just walk at people after she's slowed them, and it makes life difficult for them. I can tell you how many times I've played like Leona or Nami into Ashe lanes that have been like, oh, I can go for a trade here. Ashe autos me once, and then I just end up dying because I'm slowed and I can't walk away. And I'm like, oh, how foolish of me. I have forgotten that Ashe has a slow on passive. And then the next game I'm playing against Ashe, I'll do the exact same thing.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes that's just how it be, but in the meantime, mid lane just going to continue to get more and more spooky as Riv in a little bit of trouble.
Not that much trouble. Does have the movement
just a little.
Those tier 1 boots to be able to walk away from the crash down. Eats a stun and a Void Seeker from the Kaisa, but doesn't manage to eat too much outside of that, still maintaining some health bar. But it is because Barolo is rotating up towards this top lane and is picking up the early grubs for himself. So again, Dorado maintaining their grub advantages, whereas TFF is happy to take an early first drag.
Brady, we are seeing it for the first time in the series, and true actual objective trade from TFF Aftershock, as the dragon is going to be taken up in response here. And there we go. We actually have some macro on the board here. In the meantime, you know, top lane's still going to be playing fairly even. Nothing too crazy going on. Flash and ulti are available.
Yeah, ult for Coach Silent K, but that sustain is not that much of the early game. Blown up by the top jungle duo of Dorado.
Yeah, and sometimes it really only takes one kill to start turning around the mental, but Chrome's in a little bit of trouble.
I don't know if this is the fight that TFF wants. They are going to be forced to walk away from it, but they get an exhaust for practically free. I don't think they're actually too unhappy about that.
Yeah, I mean, take an exhaust, you don't burn anything in response. Tromalone is honestly still pretty dang healthy after that one. So it is going to just be another bounce of the minions. Nothing too crazy going on here. Cocoa Puffs, on the other hand, walking forward with the level 6 available, still trying to make something happen in this bot lane. IQ of a Coconut had also walked on over, but so much pressure is starting to get applied to the spot lane as TFF Aftershock say, hey, coach, we understand that you are going to just be on that weak side. You're not really going to be putting much towards you, but you're going to be fine on the Mundo. In the meantime, bot lane in a little bit of trouble. We want to give them a little bit of help, show them a little bit of love.
Yeah. I will say that is the worst feeling as a support. You get your pink ward, your fresh, shiny new 75 gold pink ward, and you immediately put it down. The enemy jungler walks right over it and just takes it. Life is so difficult for us support players, and life is also difficult for Coach Silent K. Flash forward from Walk Warlock, who misses the Q2, which means Coach Silent K will be able to walk out of there just fine. A lot of pressure up here on the top side, but there's no real objective to take afterwards, so it is just the flash lost from Walk Warlock.
Yeah, the flash loss for Walk Warlock and the flash loss for Coach Silent K. And the only thing that the Mundo does lose out on there is his passive, but because of that, going to be able to walk straight back into the lane, not going to be losing out on too much. And in the meantime, we got the Veigar stacking, just continuing up in the mid lane. IQ of Coconut enjoying the slow pace of the game so far.
Yeah, a much slower game than either of our previous ones, even with how far or how slow I think game 2 really was in general. We ended with less than a kill a minute, which is, for most leagues unusual, but for the Divinity League here, we like our kills, we like our action. We're normally nearing a kill a minute, sometimes getting close to 2. As Cocoa Puffs is up here on the top side, first Paranoia pop. This is an important cooldown. Coach Silent K has that Mundo ulti on, is going to stay alive and just knock down the Warlock. Cocoa Puffs with a successful first gang.
Yeah, there it is. Nocturne on board, on the table. Maxism from the Mundo also going to be able to do so much damage on that low health there. The ultimate just in the right spot at the right time. And Arrow comes in. I don't think you need the cleanse, though, as there really isn't much going on down here.
I like the idea from Riv 60. It just doesn't end up coming together, as I don't think Bro and Sunrise are spotted. They're not going to be spotted as that mist is going to be popped, and Fallen Warrior, Aftershock falls off. Nice Glacial Fissure onto 2. The Heartbreaker onto Fallen Warrior, who lives with a sliver. Chroma Low tanking up for the support. Nicely counteracted by the TFF bottom side.
Yeah, beautifully played by TFF here, going to make sure that there's no chance for Fallen Warrior to be going down there. Play the team play game there. I mean, passing that friendship test, gotta feel pretty dang good here. And in the meantime, we get another objective trade, Brittany. I'm so proud of these players.
This one might not be a trade. It is Cocoa Puffs looking for it, but it's on Vision, so with no priority, it doesn't look like Dorado's going to be able to do anything about it, but Cocoa Puffs is going to be able to deny 1, maybe 2 grubs, but I think with the threat of potential Dorado members coming through, Cocoa Puffs is feeling a little bit antsy about this. But in the meantime, on the bottom lane, Crumble and Fallen Warrior are just getting dove on repeat here.
Yeah, I mean, Sunrise is spotted out, though, so going to be rough on the bot side. Still no chance to even look at the tower. There's no flash on the Kaisa. Gotta feel pretty dang rough down here, as even more of the plates going over. Cocoa Puffs going to look for yet another one of those Void Grubs, so we are going to be getting the 3-3 trade. But in the meantime, Doggle slowly building up that lead.
Yeah, Coach Silent can Walk Warlock trading him here on the top side, but Dorado are just playing to their bottom lane out. Cocoa Puffs is up here top lane again as Walk Warlock is trading. He had Cocoa Puffs on Vision, pops that World Ender just to escape. Maybe can look for a turnaround here with the rest of the duration on that ulti, but it's just ult for ult traded and a Paranoia used for nothing game.
Yeah, and the Dragon is up here. So we've been talking about objective trades on objective trades, and here we go. We got the Punish coming in from Doggle.
Are we going to get 3 for 1 and 3 for 1?
Oh, maybe.
Three grubs, one dragon for 3 grubs, one dragon. You were talking about objective trades. This is just the early game trade.
Yeah, the early game trade that pretty much anyone would be fine with if you're looking to stall out the entirety of this game here. And honestly, I am of the opinion that TFF are in a position where you want the game to get to a point where you can start to just burst down one of the carries on Doggle, right? If you can burst down Efron, if you can burst down Riv 60, it should be fine as long as the death timers are long enough that you can make some use out of that. But in the meantime, there really isn't so much benefit in forcing a fight this early on when you're not going to have the upper hand.
But the problem with not forcing fights at this point is it just means because of the early lead that this Dorado bot lane has, Riv 60 is just going to continue getting farther and farther ahead, up about 10 CS, a 1,000 gold lead over their lane opponent thanks to the kills and the plates. If you're playing Ash Braum, this is just exactly the spot you want your lane to be in.
Yeah, I mean, look at how much control that they've got over this lane. They've just constantly been able to push it in again and again, and it's been looking so difficult for the side of TFF Aftershock here. As Chromalone and Fallen Warriors, they have been holding on here, but holding on when you're playing Kai'Sa, a lane that is notorious for being able to just blow up any bot lane if anyone ever missteps, isn't really where you want to find yourself. Right? You want to be able to continue to push your lead in terms of the pressure at the very least, because the gold advantage is very much not there.
Yeah, it's a difficult spot, I think. We're starting to see some first item completions come through. Sunrai has his own sword. That Blade of the Ruin King is finished up. Cocoa Puff's looking to get that Stride Breaker soon. Roa for Efron. Items are starting to come online. I do think Walk Warlock with the Eclipse is going to be very difficult for Coach Silent K to deal with. It's gonna be rough for Coach Silent K in this game. You've got a Bork Ashe, you've got a Bork Viego who has a Bork passive built into his Q, and then you also have Eclipse Aatrox. Mudo's tanky, but a lot of his tanking is built on how much HP that he's got, and I mean, percentage HP damage is pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, like we were saying, very much looking just build all of that health. And even right now, I think Coach Silent K is probably just building a straight up Warmogs for that first item. So it's likely going to just be health and nothing more than that. In the meantime, the Rift Herald is going to be getting picked up for Doggle. Just so much priority on both of the solo lanes. And also Barolo being brought up to this Rift Herald just fully guarantees the neutral objective.
Yeah, this is a nice thing you can do when your 80 carry is ahead. You can just say, hey, farm passively under tower, just sit back, relax. Kai'Sa engage range is pretty short when they don't have flash, and you do, so you can just play it safe, play it passive, relax, and we can get objectives on the other side of the map, and maybe look for dives on the other side of the map. Coach 7K does have ulti and passive on, so I don't think Dorado wants this one in particular, but for now, it is just going to be Paranoia on the bottom side. I said play safe, but play safe under your own tower with Paranoia. They're getting popped. Riv 60 goes down. Walk Warlock here with the teleport, though. Looking for some damage onto Fallen Warrior. Misses that Q2, but they're going to find the last hit on to Fallen Warrior. Now IQ the Coconut rotating in. They're going to force the flash out of Walk Warlock over that baby cage. Cocoa Puffs, though, wants to keep moving forward. In the meantime, Efron has found Chromalone on the other side of the map. Walk Warlock still trading heavily on this bottom side. The Eclipse plus the Black Leader, the damage on the back line. Efron flashing over for the Petrifying Gaze, doesn't find a stun, and now is stuck inside the baby cage of himself. Stunned up, double stunned up. Coach Silent K finds that last hit, gets the flash over the wall, and manages to survive. IQ the Coconut able to walk away, but walking away towards the wrong side of the map. Rib able to come in, get their own revenge. Goodbye, IQ, and goodbye top lane turret as Sunrise on the other side of the map pops that Rift Herald and picks up some gold.
Yeah, I mean, so much chaos just happening there. Efron flashing over the wall with the Petrifying Gaze, trying to make sure that there's no chance for TFF Aftershock to turn that one around there. And so many kills going over to the side of Doggle, more specifically going over to Walk Warlock and to Riv 60, some of the places where you really want these kills to be going. I mean, the gold is just very well distributed over here But in the meantime, looking for even more gold in the mid lane. Not going to be available to them, though, as Barolo comes in at the right place at the right time, doing exactly what a support needs to be doing. But
Yeah, just making sure
Colt
Warlock's gonna
finally
walk out there.
popping on Chrome alone. Gotta feel really dang nice.
Yeah, it'll even out that gold lead a little bit, but it's still 1,000 in favor of Riv. I think importantly for TFF, that gold lead hasn't expanded in any way. Carmelone isn't farther behind, Riv isn't farther ahead. The gold lead remaining the same means that your Kai'Sa is scaling at the same rate this Ashe is, and Kai'Sa is a champion that can really start to pop off once she gets a few items under her belt, depending on what kind of build she goes for, whether it's Kraken on hit or we're going to see like Nashor's Ginsu's AP. Meantime, Fallen Warrior getting a little bit punished here. Is able to just get that crash down and walk out. But Dorado just really want pressure on this dragon. They do not want to let TFF walk in because they want to start their own soul stacking.
Yeah, and there's no teleports coming in from top lane, so it would just be the 4v4 and no real front line for the side of TFF Aftershock. Means that they are just going to be giving this one up. Fallen Warrior might be a little bit far forward, though.
Barolo might be the one in trouble now inside the baby cage, but supports are pretty tanky, so they're not going to be engaged on, except for that Agita Crystal Arrow onto Fallen Warrior. They're throwing everything at the Rel. Caster Curse for the Ages. They're not engaging on supports. Everything gets thrown at poor Fallen Warrior.
Yeah, as you were saying, support's a little tanky, but they're only kind of tanky. They are not going to be that crazy super tank. You are not Coach Silent K on the Mundo. Instead, you got Cocoa Puffs going straight in.
Yeah, they're looking for Sunrise, but he's got that Heartbreaker, so able to stay alive. Now Walk Warlock stuck in a 1 versus 4. Gets absolutely bursted by the Primordial Burst from IQ of a Coconut. And TFF finding some good punishes here on these mid-game skirmishes.
Yeah, solid punish there right around the Scuttle Crab here, but this might be a little bit disrespectful.
Yeah, Coach Silent K does have the W1, so he's going to be able to retain some extra HP after that pop, and they managed to pick up a turret off of it. So TFF, I think, finally on the map and activated here, making some proactive plays. This is what we want to see.
Yeah, they're not just killing over and dying. They're going to be able to find themselves in a position where they look at Dog and say, hey, you're not allowed to do this. This is still illegal. You have to respect us at the very least. In the meantime, Coach Silent K gonna get locked up here.
Doesn't have ulti, doesn't have flash. The passive's popped, and that passive unfortunately does not work against slows. Efron with the last poison tick will lock down the poor Mundo.
Yeah, Coach Silent K just unable to get a chance to play the game. Just as we said before, right? Ashe as a champion, one of the best champions in bot lane for just walking towards you, right? If you can constantly make sure that the opponent is slower than you, you are walking faster than average, and walking slightly faster than average at your opponent seems to work out just fine for Doggle.
Yeah, it's a pretty big advantage for them. And I think it's a little surprising that with all of the AD carry focus that we've seen throughout these drafts, Ashe really hasn't been a priority for TFF, despite how successful I feel Riv 60 has been on it throughout this series.
Yeah, I mean, not only has Riv been positioning well, been putting out damage well, Riv has also, on top of that, been getting a lot of these fights started with that Enchanted Crystal Arrow.
Yeah, that Enchanted Crystal Arrow is just such a good go button. It's similar. It's a little bit different to something like a Malphite ulti, but if it hits, you've got a guaranteed engage. You can really just say, hey, we're going to go on this person who's stunned for like 3.5 seconds. We do have a pause here coming in. We'll let you know if we do have a reason why. But for now, we get a little bit of a second to breathe. We get a little bit of a second here to breathe and to think about the state of the game a little bit more. And the gold lead is in favor of Dorado currently, but I do think TFF has a bit more momentum currently. I think they've got an opportunity to start putting their foot on the gas, make some side lane picks, find some opportunities as they get these first and second item power spikes.
Yeah, I mean, as we continue on to the later stages of the game, once these second items come on through, it is going to be a really big question as to who really benefits from these 2 item power spikes the most, right? I mean, Mundo is getting health on health, which into a team that has 2 Borks might not necessarily feel the best. On the other hand, Rod of Ages Seraph's Embrace is such a disgustingly good combo together, and Efron having that fully finish up, definitely gonna be feeling pretty nice on the Cassiopeia, especially because you're gonna be sitting really, really close up to your opponents on that, mid to short range mage, right?
Mm-hmm. I think once Efron gets that Leandries online, especially, it's going to be just
Oh,
very
Lord.
rough for the front line here for TFF. But until that point, I think TFF has an opportunity to, again, step on that gas a little, try and find some silent picks, make those proactive plays that your composition really is built for. You have Paranoia, you have the Magnet Storm, you have opportunities to engage. It's just a matter of finding them.
Yeah, and just like that, we're just gonna see, classic Riot spectator moment, just
Yeah.
as it pauses up a little bit. But
You get a miniature
in
freeze,
the
it'll be here for a couple seconds.
meantime, yeah, I mean, in the meantime, right? Let's take a quick look at what objectives are available on the map. The Baron is up for both teams, but I don't think either team really has the DPS to just kind of crazily sneak that one just yet. If Efron had a Leandri's finish, then maybe with all that burn damage, but not quite something that they can truly threaten until that point here. But in the meantime, it is just going to be wave clear on wave clear as IQ of a Coconut. I kind of wondering just how many stacks the man's sitting on.
Yeah, we've gotten just about 20 minutes into game here. We maybe can ask one of our producers if they can get a stack count on this Vigar so we can check it out. That's about 157, sitting on about 340 AP currently with just that Seraphs plus a lost chapter. So still scaling, still trying to get there into the end game, but 157 at 20 minutes, not too bad.
Not too bad, not too shabby. I mean, it's nothing to write home about, but it's definitely not something that you can ignore, as Veigar is just going to continue to pick up as much gold as possible in this game. And in the meantime, right, we've got a lot more vision being focused slowly around this Baron, which I gotta say, right, Baron vision, don't get me wrong, very, very useful. But Baron vision at this point in the game where your opponents really can't actually threaten it is not nearly as important as picking up vision around that dragon, giving you the opportunity to look for that soul point. And right now, the only two people who are looking around that dragon are Walk Warlock and Coach Silent K, which, let's be real, they've only got their eyes on this tower.
Yeah, they're sitting at each other and they're staring. Walk Warlock looking to get to that second item. I'm assuming that's going to be a Profane Hydra for the Aatrox. It is actually going to be the Baron started up here for Dorado. There's no vision for TFF. They actually can't see. They're going to spot Barolo now putting down that ward, which means that they're going to start to sniff out that, hey, something's going on here. Barolo has that Glacial Fissure, has an avenue to put it down. It's a nice Petrifying Gaze, but the Baby Cage onto 2 means that Cocoa Puffs has access to that backline, but in the meantime, his own backline is getting shredded by Sunrise. IQ will finally find Efron, but Fallen Warrior will be the sacrifice. It's a double kill over to the Viego, now looking for a chase down with the body of the Rel, finds that Heartbreaker again onto Cocoa Puffs, still did use that reset, so no extra Heartbreaker to come through, and IQ of a Coconut will survive. It ends up being a 2-for-1 trade overall. Nothing really gained as Dorado might just be turning back to the Baron.
Absolutely not. That would definitely be a little bit of a step too much for Dorado here, but the dragon is ripe for the taking. As we were saying, it is that soul point available for Dorado here, and I gotta say, that last fight for TFF Aftershock, I think could have gone significantly better, right? It was looking very, very good for them at the very beginning. They got the jump on to Dorado, especially with those Baron resist shreds. But the big thing is Cocoa Puffs and IQ of a Coconut had a completely different idea in mind from Chrome Alone and Fallen Warrior. They just were not on the same page at the same time. They were attacking different points of the team. The Paranoia was honestly a little bit late. A huge part of that ultimate is the utility of it, is the ability to turn off the lights. So being able to pop it and make sure that the enemy team can't actually coordinate against it is super important. So popping it that late in the fight, specifically for the all-in, just kind of turns into just that, just the all-in on the backline. And you've completely neglected your AD carry. You've completely neglected your support here. And Chrome Alone and Fallen Warriors both going to be falling there, not going to get a chance to play the game. But in the meantime, Baron is once again on the table for both these teams here. And by both these teams, I do just mean Doggle.
Yeah, Dorado, again, is in the driver's seat at this point in the game, are feeling very confident about the spot they're in. TFF maybe looking for a plan to walk Warlock here, as Coach Silent K is going to get that Heartsteel proc. But now, with 2 members showing bottom lane, it's that trigger pull again for Dorado. They're going to look for the play as Walk Warlock manages to zone them off with the World Ender. They're going to be spotted out doing this Baron. Teleport burned from Walk and from IQ. Everybody's teleporting up here to the Baron buff, but it's already down so far. This double Bork plus the Leandry's burn means that they burn it so quickly. Sunrise finds the smite. Now Dorado has to try and kite back and try and find their opportunity to fight. IQ Coconut goes big, picks up 1, but Walk Warlock is bigger on the Aatrox. Coach Silent K gets into the backline, but it's just too little too late. Can't find the damage onto Riv. 60 gets smacked down by the Heartbreaker. And Dorado take a Baron, take a fight. They're looking to take a clean sweep.
Yeah, and just like that, Dorado just continually finding their openings, continually finding their opportunities, and TFF Aftershock still not on the same page. It's just so rough for this squad here, as even with that triple teleport, right? The teleport from Walk Warlock, the teleport from IQ of a Coconut, the teleport from Coach Silent K. IQ of a Coconut and Coach Silent K teleported to completely different locations. Coach Silent K teleported to the mid wave as IQ of a Coconut teleported directly into the fight, and all of a sudden you got the Mundo showing up so much later than the rest of the team. And in the meantime, it is just going to be Doggle constantly on the same page, and team play versus mixed messages. Team play is always going to be the one coming out on top.
Yeah, we do have a replay coming in to the back half of that fight as we got a moment here outside of that Baron buff. We can just see how this fight did start for Dorado and how it ended up looking so good for them.
Yeah, and you can see right here, Cocoa Puffs just focus so much on Walk Warlock while the rest of the team is focused on the general team fight. And once again, it's a matter of the team not being on the same page at the same time. And I've said it once, I'll say it again. 4 people doing something stupid and 1 person doing something smart is not going to be as effective as 5 people doing something stupid. Now, is that to say that Cocoa Puffs was doing the right play there, or that, you know, the rest of the team was doing something incorrect? I don't know. I'm not going to make any judgment calls over there. What I'm going to say is you need to have 5 people hitting 1 person. You have to have everyone focusing down a single person, especially when you've got a champion, 2 champions really, with percent missing health damage executes on your team, right? The Kaisa and the Veigar both desire to be focusing down a single person at a time. And if you cannot designate the single champion, the single target to focus, you're not gonna get a chance to play out these 4v5 instant, burst comps.
Yeah, it's just a rough spot for TFF to be in because, again, it feels like they're consistently on the back foot here, trying to respond to the plays that Dorado is making. You see them push to the bottom lane, so Dorado instantly turns to Baron, and suddenly TFF have to scramble for a response. Dorado finds priority in the mid lane, so TFF has to try and scramble to find a defense, find some way to play around it. But it's just Dorado with constant momentum and constant priority. It's just plenty of work for them. It's looking good.
Yeah, it's looking really good for the side of Dorado, and it's looking pretty bad for TFF Aftershock, our first seed, coming on in here in a rough as hell position, walking in super blind over here. The World Ender is popped, trying to run away though.
Yeah, flash burned as well for Walk, but in the meantime, he engages in the mid lane. Cocoa Puffs caught out, loses that flash, but the Heartbreaker will follow. Sunrise goes on a rampage, now potentially looking for a collapse. 5v4 here for TFF. Maybe not the fight that they want to take as Walk Warlock is coming into the back line. Everyone goes on a killing spree as the tank is gone. TFF falling apart here at the seams. 30 minutes in, those death timers are hella long. Dorado Gaming will continue to march towards finals undefeated here in the semis.
Yeah, and Dorado Gaming Lambda going to be taking the mid inhib, going to be taking the Nexus Towers, IQ of a coconut, the final person standing in the way. Barolo taking up all of these tower shots, taking all of that focus, and just like that, it is going to be TFF coming back for just a moment, but the Nexus falls and Dorado reign supreme.
An incredible showing from Dorado Gaming Lambda here, the 4th seed coming into our semifinals after an unfortunate loss to the literal Monkeys. They come up huge on a 3-0 against the team that they were the only ones to levy a defeat to, and they remain the only team to levy a defeat against TFF. They just repeated again now, 3-0 instead of 2-0.
Yeah, and 3-0 instead of 2-0 tells you that it wasn't just a fluke. It was absolutely a matter of play here. And Dorado Gaming Lambda going to be taking it all in the end with a 3-0 and a handshake and very, very many points going to be retained for many of the bettors here. But in the meantime, look at that damage structure. You can't even see the number that Walk Warlock has at this point. We just know it's 29,000 something.
Yeah, just about 30k for Walk Warlock up on the top side, which is expected when you're up against a Mundo. This is kind of just what you do when you're an early game champion against Mundo. You beat him down in lane, you make it difficult for him, and he just never got the chance to actually end up like being relevant as a tank. And that feels like kind of the story of this entire TFF roster. They had compositions that were good. They had ideas and plans for their roster to be like, okay, we'll scale up. We'll find late game prowess. We'll survive to that late game. We'll outplay once we have our items, once we have our power spikes. But Dorado just said, hey, if you're going to give us the opportunity to just play our early game comps, to play for priority, to give ourselves momentum, we're just going to run away with it. And they did.
Yeah, they absolutely did. I mean, just like that, they ran away with the momentum. They ran away with the series 3-0. And we are going to be getting an interview with the winners after this one. So make sure not to go anywhere as we tune back in just a bit.
Welcome back, everybody. I am here with two of our winners from the series between Dorado Gaming Lambda and TFF Aftershocks. It is the 80 carry of Dorado, Riv 60, and their top laner, Walk Warlock. How are you guys feeling after your 3-0 victory tonight?
Pretty good.
Honestly, I still have the jitters from the whole series, but I didn't feel like this was a series we were going to lose at all. I just didn't expect it to be a 3-0 on our end.
Yeah, just hopping right off of that, I was going to ask, coming into this matchup, you were the only team to have levied a loss to TFF throughout the entire regular season. Coming into this matchup, did it feel like you had that same confidence coming into this series, even though it was best of 3 versus best of 5?
Yeah, 100%. Just because. So behind the scenes, we actually scrimmed TFF shortly after we played them, and they showed us some champs that like we kind of didn't ever want to play against, which is why you kind of see the Gnar ban every game. That was like something we couldn't handle. So we were pretty confident going into this week, knowing we had to play TFF, and just kind of like ready to steamroll.
Sorry. Continue.
I was going to follow up, yeah. I think one of the things I was actually interested throughout the entire draft, because I know you said like, oh, how did you feel towards, right? I felt like, okay, I feel like we're going to keep doing the same bans that we've done ever since like regular season and scrims, and we're just going to keep going at that because that's what, worked in the first time. I'm kind of surprised that like, even though the bans did kind of change on the side of TFF, like there was like a clear threat with certain champions, and I felt like they certainly weren't respecting the power of those champions at all.
Yeah, speaking of the certain champions, you did get your chance, Riv, to have Ashe throughout the entirety of the series. I saw you in chat talking a little bit about like, yeah, Ashe really never was the problem, which I'm assuming was sarcasm. Do you feel like you're kind of being held back by being put on Ashe duty, or do you think this champion is just good enough to play?
I think realistically speaking, Ashe is just like really, really good on this patch, and the fact that I got put on it like 3 times, I wasn't telling my team like, please give me something else. If anything, I was more comfortable with the fact that I was getting Ashe 3 games, because I've been known to like play so much Ashe in like my competitive scene. So like it was really just all comfort, and it made like me get from like the jitters of playoffs to just like playing comfort, doing my thing, Ashe ult on repeat whenever I can, and just like play it from there.
All right. Now, I did want to ask, Walk, I'm going to throw this question specifically to you. Obviously, Dorado as an organization has a lot of expectations coming into it. Whenever they are in a tournament, they are expected to be like, oh, these guys are like top half of the standings, minimum is their expectations. Did you guys feel a little bit worried coming into playoffs as the 4th seeds, or did you feel just like you were going to be underrated and playing as per usual?
We had I wouldn't say a lot of roster issues, but we had some like, obviously we had the swap with Islamic and Sunrai. And then we also were working through our own kinks, because like at the beginning of the split, it wasn't determined if I'd be the starting top laner. So we were kind of thrown together really quickly. But we figured it out. I'm glad we figured it out before playoffs. But going in as the 4th seed, we were just kind of like, okay, it's just we gotta take care of business. If people want to underrate us as the 4th seed, then that's fine, because we've put up numbers all split.
Love to hear it. Now, the series on the other side of the bracket, Conduit Esports Phoenix versus the Literal Monkeys, is currently, I believe, 2-1 in the Literal Monkeys' favor, last I got to check. Do you guys have a prediction coming into that series? Do you feel like there's an opponent you'd rather go up against?
Me personally, I mean, the team itself would love to go against CPX. This would be another Conduit CPX, or not Conduit CPX, sorry, another CPX like Dorado, like finals. But me personally, I would love to see Socks on the other side of the rift again. Go, brother! Like, I hope they turn it around. But I have some unfinished business with Litmon too. I wouldn't mind playing against them.
And Riff, for you?
I think realistically speaking, I see Litmon taking the series, but I think I'm on the side of Walk as well, that I want the boys over at CPX to take the series. Not necessarily because like they're an easier matchup of the two. I think it's just because like I just want the salty run back. I felt like versus CPX, it was definitely a series that we could have take for us, but like, they ended up with the win, so I really just want the salty run back.
the salty run back, hoping for and prayed for. Now, before we get you two out of here, I did want to ask, is there any shout outs you want to give while you're here on stream? Friends, family members, coaches, teammates, anybody who didn't make it to playoffs that you thought had a better performance than expected? Rib, I'll throw that to you first.
Okay, so I think like the first few shout outs that I want to do is definitely to our coach Chels or Cherry actually on Twitch. Because like we mean about her like screaming at us perma, telling us all these like things, whether it be means or serious. But I think at the end of the day, like one of the reasons why we made it this long, I mean for going into finals, right? Is the fact that like Chels was there for us, letting us know what we needed to do, figuring out the drafts beforehand, figuring out the drafts on site, I think that was really huge for us. And the other shout out that I want to give is to like all my friends who are actually watching right now on the Titan Esports main channel. So I want to give a shout out to them. Thanks for the support and everything.
All right, Walk, for you.
Shout out to. I guess I'll give 2 shout outs. Shout out to Efron and Sunrai and Islamic and Riv. I guess that's like 4, but yeah, shout out to my teammates. I mean, I joined Dorado under a weird consensus. We kind of had beef, not me and like the Dorado team I'm on currently, but like a different Dorado team. So it was like kind of awkward at first, but like, Sunrai, our fucking fearless leader, he does everything for us. He's basically our manager. He makes it easier for us to play Mesh. And then one more shout out is to Bear and Besties, because I heard they were winning finals apparently, and they're not even in playoffs. So shout out to Bear and Besties.
All right, a little bit of spice here to end off our review. Congratulations again, you two, for your 3-0 victory over TFF, and we'll be seeing you in the finals. And if you can make it to the Titan versus Aegis event. And now I want to thank all of you so much for joining us here at home. I haven't to pretty my co-caster did have to step away. Our producer in the back, the War Eagle, making sure that everything runs as smoothly as possible with Cher again, making sure that our observation runs as smoothly as possible. Again, thank you all so much for joining us, and we will see you next week as we get the conclusion to our Divinity series in the Titan Finals. Have a good night.